All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're doing another multiplayer stream. We're going to be streaming Anticity's Ladder's Finest tournament. We're just going to be looking to get into a lobby real quick here so we can start casting some of these games. And we'll go over the bracket real quick as well as soon as I find this lobby. And then we'll be getting underway with some of our games. And so for the bracket and how this all works out is this is based on the ELO for a Anticity's ladder, which is based off his Discord. So it is all done through a best of three. All of it's controlled by a bot that he wrote himself. So it's a nice little fun bit there. So it's a vast improvement upon the quick battles of the Warhammer 2 multiplayer just base system. So it is a very nice. If you are interested in potentially playing in that ladder and stuff, I can drop a link to that Discord. I should be able to do that. Alright, just checking a few things real quick so we can get hopped on into one of these lobbies. Ah, that's what it is. Alright. There we go. So this first one is going to be with ODM Mookip and Platypus. So, just quick switch the names around here. So we got it swapped in the lobby. And then we should be getting underway pretty quick. Yes, Voidlulz is playing in this tournament. He is out. Yeah, we'll go over the bracket real quick as soon as I get finished giving everything set up. All right. So, for the bracket, this is going to be, there's 8 people in this bracket to start things off. We have Voidlulz and Biblington on the top of the bracket facing off in the first matchup over there. Then we'll have Platypus and Mookip playing in this game here. And then we'll have Talcor versus Dr. Jellyfish, AC Moore versus Lunacy for the first 8 series. And then we'll be getting into the semifinals after that. And then I'll have all of that in a bracket more organized. Didn't have a best of 8 bracket prepared ahead of time for this today. Just asking what the picks and bans works. We're going to be testing out this UI here for the first one. This is kind of be hopefully the plan going forward with how we're going to be doing tournaments and stuff. So we're going to be having the pool of available factions. And then we'll be, yes, kind of just dragging all of that around for all of that. Just kind of quick little message in. All right, yeah. Just getting a few of the logistics organized. Okay, but for the picks and bans of this first game here, we do have Platypus is going to be going Empire to start things off. And then the bans were the were the Dwarves and Greenskins. And then we have Mookip is going to be counterpicking with the Bretonia faction there. So we'll get that slid on over. There we go. And it looks like the Platypus is already ready to go. Yeah, both. Yeah, Voidlaws is probably the favorite. He's definitely the top elo for the day. Yeah, that is correct, Butcherbird. Enticity is currently occupied, so he won't be able to cast today's tournament himself. And Dactor was going to be part of the co-cast, but unfortunately he was a little busy today as well. So it's just going to be me today, and a little fun stream, a little bit of tournament action. Haven't been doing a traditional tournament for quite some time and doing WWC stuff for the longest while, since like February, so a couple months now. So this should be fun first fight here. So the first map is going to be on Schwarzhofen. It's a fairly open map, does have slight hills on both sides, but for, I guess, either faction here, it's going to be, I would imagine both sides are going to be trying to pull the other one to their own hill, so probably be seeing either at least a couple trebs or cannons and mortars on the Empire side. Just kind of force that engagement one way or the other. I guess for this particular matchup, I'd say it's about Bretonnia favored, at least to a small extent. Just kind of how things have been. It's just mostly that, I mean, having that poison on one side versus the other, so that really does favor the cav engagement for the Bretonians. And they definitely have plenty of very good cav to help whittle down, like especially like Demigryph Knights and the like. So both sides are ready, so we are going to be loading on into our first match. Just a little update in Discord, so alright, we are loaded in. We'll update out of the debug cam real quick, and then we'll switch that scene on over, and both sides loading on in. Should be both ready to go in just a few seconds here. So we'll have Platypus is going to be over here on the Empire side, and we'll have the Bretonians on the far deployment zone. I mean, both sides have a slight little hill on both sides, but overall it is a fairly open map. Plenty of room to maneuver. So for Platypus's Empire, we are going to be seeing double mortars and a steam tank as well. Very high armor. It's going to have that nice shot to be kind of pulling things into itself, and it is unbreakable as well. So it is a very hard unit to be bringing down. Fear, terror, all that good stuff to really kind of help in that engagement. And there isn't really going to be that cav engagement. It is going to be purely frontline and skirmish. So we do have 3 outriders. And then for the frontline, it is going to be just a bunch of halberdiers, a few spearmen. And then for the Lord, it is going to be Balthazar Gelt coming in with the Staff of Olin, Final Transmutation, and I believe that is Searing Doom, if I do remember correctly. So yep, that is Searing Doom, and then of course the Arcane Conduit as well. So plenty of Winds of Magic with that Arcane Conduit and that Staff of Olin's, which gives that increased power reserve and power recharge rate. And then we also do have double Witch Hunters as well, just kind of help with getting things just a little bit more susceptible to that missile fire. So we look over their stats as soon as we find where they have gone off to. So the Witch Hunters, actually they do not have their ability. They do have one, that Accusation, I believe it is called. It reduces like the missile resist for units, but instead it's just going to be looking for that just steady DPS, having that magical attacks. So that is the key thing there, is that they have that magical attacks with their ranged as well. So against, like, if the Green Knight, for example, like most particularly the Green Knight is on the field, these guys are a very good counter towards that. Now for the Bretonians, going to be, whoops, I got to update the, did not update the board here to fit the names. There we go. Now it's not condensed on his side. So both sides are going to be underway, but for the Bretonnians, it is going to be peasant mobs with some battle pilgrims for the front line. The battle pilgrims definitely going to help against those halberdiers, having a couple of those in those center ranks, but otherwise it's going to be mostly just peasants, as there's going to be a few peasant bowmen as well, with those pox arrows getting that poison, of course, which is very helpful. We have a couple of those, couple of the regular. We do have King Lewin up in the sky. That's going to mean Balthazar Gelt's got to be very, very careful, trying to make sure he keeps his distance, but all those outriders should help in screening out King Lewin, who does have, I believe we have the sword. Actually, is it the Sword of Corone? Yes, he is bringing the Sword of Corone, foregoing the Lion Shield, but does have Stand Your Ground and Foe Seeker, and of course he does have his regen with the Ladies Champion. We do have a Damsel of Life coming in with Earthblood and Regrowth, as well as the Scroll of Shielding and the Stone of Power as well, getting a little bit more magic. And for the mobility, it is Questing Knights, Knights of the Realm for the most part. So 2 questing, 3 Knights of the Realm, and that is it. Actually, there's a couple. Yeah, that is all for the cavalry on the Bretonnian side. So they are definitely going to be having to advance through that rain of fire, though. They are going to be foregoing any of those trebuchets, and those peasants are taking quite a bit of damage on the initial approach. All of the outriders have been kind of moving towards the outskirts, still keeping one in reserve. Definitely needs that one to kind of keep King Lewin at bay, while the steam tank is just going to be doing some nice damage early on, able to hit these questing knights for a few shots, and those mortars, those peasant bowmen, are just taking a bunch of damage, and this volley should be able to rout it, but it does look like most of those shots actually do fall just a little short, and those 2 witch hunters already teeing off on that Damsel of Life, doing a lot of damage to her. She does need to pull back out of their range. Now, they don't have the most range, so that Damsel just got a little too far ahead of herself. Gets that Earthblood off, though, can be healing herself, healing those questing knights. Definitely going to be helpful there, as the questing knights and all those units try and push into that back line, but that front line does get closed off by these 2 spearmen in that front, while the rest of it is just kind of sitting in the back, just keeping those mortars nice and safe. Definitely a good idea, though, keeping all of their infantry nice and far forward, though they are getting broken down fairly quickly. These spearmen do rout, especially with King Lewin here in that fight, going to be shutting down both these witch hunters, keeping them otherwise occupied by that steam tank. Going to be able to get some nice damage into Lewin itself, while we do have Gelt just kind of continually cycle ahead. But now the center ranks is open for the Empire, and the Bretonnian Cav is going to be pushed on forward. Both of the mortars do drop their crew, going to be pulling back, while the halberdiers do push forward, going to be intercepting these questing knights and Knights of the Realm, catching them in a little bit of a pincer maneuver, as they'll be able to trade rather well. It looks like we do have a incoming barrage here of Searing Doom, going to be hitting all of the halberdiers instead of those questing knights. Unfortunately, Malkuth's Micro was on point. They're able to peel those guys off. These halberdiers are going to be getting terrified by King Lewin. And so far, I mean, it's still pretty even at this point. Both sides have taken a bit of damage, and these outriders, I think at this point, they probably would have wanted to stick around on the other flank, because now they are being a little bit screened out by these peasant bowmen, but they are still able to get some nice shots into these, like, Knights of the Realm, for example, so that all those shots aren't necessarily wasted, but they are having to be a little bit more cautious on that front. These now our Knights of the Realm here going to be pressuring back these outriders here, while these spearmen try to catch on top of them to allow these outriders that once again to be firing in. And King Lewin really has been leaving Balthazar Gelt completely just unopposed at this point, allowing him just to cast his spells where he wants to. So a nice little Searing Doom into the rear of these peasant bowmen, going to be doing a nice little bit of chip damage to them, but has been using up most of its Winds of Magic. I don't think I've seen any of the final transmutations just yet, but the Bretonnians have done a good job of kind of keeping themselves mostly separated. Those bounce power starting to ebb slightly into the favor of the Empire, as more and more of the cavalry is just getting whittled down by all of the spears and the halberds from the Empire, though on that front the halberds are starting to get taken some damage themselves, but having all of them left, especially both of the witch hunters. I say both of the witch hunters. One of the witch hunters has been taken out of the fight by King Lewin, who has done a nice bit of damage to him, though really these witch hunters, they were here for the Green Knight, and the Green Knight really alone. It's nice to have that kind of chip, that steady DPS, but losing them isn't really going to be the end of the world. They really just want to keep both of their mortars online, and their steam tank has been able to do a nice, but we do have a overcasted final transmutation only going to be hitting King Lewin here, but that will be doing quite a bit of damage. I think that maybe potentially should have been saved just a little bit longer, try and catch a few more units, but that will just do some nice damage. And of course, with all these halberds as well, should be able to whittle down King Lewin, and these halberds definitely need to get in and try and pull back their witch hunter out through their own lines. As we take a look back into the outfront, both the outriders continuing to harass that backline, keeping all of these peasant bowmen just kind of pulling their attention both directions as the rest of the cavalry just continuing to whittle things down. The steam tank has finally actually started to take some damage. For the most part, it has been pretty much untouched through this fight, but all of these questing knights with their armor piercing, especially surrounding that steam tank, is going to be doing a lot of damage there. The Empire needs to pull in some of their infantry. I mean, one of these halberds, I mean, the spearmen can intercept these peasants, but I think those halberds definitely need to go and engage those questing knights, definitely get some damage off there, as the balance power shifting into Bretonia's favor now, as things are getting whittled down. More and more of the answers to what what the Bretonians have is getting taken out of the picture. Like the witch hunters are both pretty low in terms of HP, and of course that regrowth as well definitely helps with that balance of power, healing up King Lewin all the way back up to full, definitely bypassing some of that his regeneration, just getting a little bit extra HP, just that nice little boost from that Damsel of Life. But that very nice Searing Doom is going to be doing a ton of damage to those questing knights, as those questing knights are probably going to end up routing here, but that steam tank took a bunch of hits from King Lewin in this engagement, and that steam tank is going to be wanting to pull on out, but King Lewin's going to be in hot pursuit, making sure that that steam tank does not have any room to maneuver. And with that steam tank gone, and most of the outriders taking quite a bit of damage on the flanks here, being chased back by these Knights of the Realm, and as long as they're being chased, those outriders are not going to be able to fire, though they do have that second unit firing into the backs of the Knights of the Realm and should be able to peel them off in due time. As the mortars, all the mortar crews are being at least kept from their crews. One of them is routing, the other one is being stuck in combat with peasant mobs. And then if those mortars get a little support from like these spearmen or these halberds, for example, they might be able to get freed up to get back onto those mortar crews and start firing in once again to all these peasant mobs. But at this time, I mean, King Lewin, what do the Empire have that can really bring down King Lewin, especially considering he is at full health. He's at his healing cap as well, but that doesn't necessarily bode too well for the Empire, because they have so many of their outriders are very far away, constantly being chased down by like all the questing knights, or chasing questing knights, and trying to catch these Knights of the Realm, while the rest of the troops just taking a massive hit from King Lewin, as the Witch Hunter does get very low in terms of HP, and with him gone, one more of the answers to King Lewin is going to be, at least for the time being, shut down, though the battle is not quite over yet. It is mostly just peasants and King Lewin. And especially, I mean, if Balthazar Gelt has enough Winds of Magic, he can definitely try and pool everything together. But I believe that Steam Tank has long since departed from this world. And with King Lewin just jumping from unit to unit, I think it is going to be only a matter of time before King Lewin finishes off everything that is left. I mean, there is still some halberds left, but I mean, the halberds, I mean, they are so very low, they're just going to end up getting terrified, which is exactly what happens. They get terrified from just getting too close to King Lewin. I mean, these spears will do the exact same thing, and even these halberds are getting very low in terms of overall leadership, and the balance is shifting more and more into Bretonia's favor, ever so slowly. Balance power being held pretty much entirely by Balthazar Gelt at this point. Two of the outriders are pretty much completely out of ammunition. The other one has enough, but I just don't think it's going to be enough to finish off King Lewin, especially with the pressure, because all he has to do is focus on that one outrider unit, and that'll completely shut them down, eliminating any possibility of finishing off King Lewin. I mean, because Gelt sure isn't going to be able to contend that, and I think Mukub is going to be seeing that, heading for either Gelt or that last of the outrider unit, as he's just going to leave the rest of his peasants, his battle programs, just to chase off the remainder of the Empire infantry. I think that is going to be just about all she wrote for Game 1. I mean, Bretonia just playing it safe here, though. It's going to be condensing all of their own units and just kind of moving together as one, especially with, I mean, there's only a couple units left. You just have a couple spearmen for the Empire. The last of the halberds is being chased off by the questing knights. And just could be getting some volleys and just keeping those outriders at bay in the late stages of the fight. Checking chat real quick. Yeah, in this battle, things were definitely looking a little dicey for the Bretonians at the onset of the fight. A lot of the cavalry took a bunch of damage there. King Lewin at a point was getting a little low, but that regrowth definitely helped top him off. But they just eventually just kind of carried through just the sheer numbers, like all the peasants. They were eventually able to kind of push those mortars back, break that initial front line for the Empire. And then once they got into that cookie jar, and all of the outriders as well, they just were constantly kept away from the high value targets. And so at this point, yeah, Gelt trying to jump into melee. But at this point, yeah, it's just a little too late. We do get some nice volleys from these Outriders in the end of the fight, but they have just maybe another volley, maybe 2 left. The other one has all of the stopping power for the Empire, but yeah, at this point, I mean, there's just way too many things to keep those Outriders busy to keep them firing on King Lewin, which they would have to do. I mean, the longer this waits, I mean, the Balthazar Gelt can be getting his another final transmutation, but there's just way too many units left for that final transmutation to be enough of a deciding factor. They would have to get like essentially every single unit on the field, because that would actually maybe turn the favor into the Empire, but I highly doubt Mukib's going to be allowing anything like that to happen. He's just getting whatever shots he can from the peasant bowman, as King Lewin, though, is taking quite a bit from all of these Outriders. The Peasant was just trying to kind of just slowly push forward, try and get as many shots off. But yeah, I think it is a done deal at this point. It's only delaying the inevitable. Battle Pilgrims, all the rest, now kind of just pushing forward. And it's going to be keeping those Outriders out of range of King Lewin. Shots from those peasants is going to be coming in, but the Outriders are going to be able to dodge that. A little charge in, though, trying to break these Battle Pilgrims. They actually probably will be able to do that. They are so very low in terms of HP. 22 models left, and another charge would probably break these Battle Pilgrims, but then you still have to deal with the Knights of the Realm, all of the health from King Lewin, and they do have a fairly... I mean, not super healthy, but enough HP on these Questing Knights to still have 18 models. But Platypus trying everything in her power to kind of just make sure that, I mean, just trying to salvage a victory in the jaws of defeat. But that jaw is sealed pretty tight at this point. Just kind of poking away more and more shots. And King Lewin, all right, at this point, yeah, King Lewin probably should just go for the Outriders. But if we take a look at the speed between the two of them, King Lewin has 100 speed, the Outriders have 84, so he will eventually be able to catch these Outriders, and this is the only threat left on the battlefield, is this one unit of Outriders. As, I mean, they can continue to kind of slowly move away. These Outriders do get routed off. I think a few shots from those Peasant Bowmen were enough to finish the job. And is it just that one unit of Outriders still left? There's a few more. I think they might have been trying to chase down some of the Knights. But yeah, it's just and it looks like in a final transmutation trying to catch King Lewin there, but with that last one, I think just the use of the Winds of Magic is going to be enough to almost push army losses there, and just a few more volleys off from the Outriders as well. Just using up the ammunition at this point might be enough to push that balance power past that point of no return. Final charge of the Outriders, trying to get any last dregs of damage. Questing Knights and Knights of the Realm, though, are there to meet that charge. Balthazar Gelt does dive down, but yeah, that is going to be it, as Platypus does concede. Mukip does take that first game, so we'll update the scorecard for that as he takes game 1. Go over the after-battle report real quick, and then we'll get on into game 2. So for the Questing Knights, really, well, one of them got pretty beat down. The other one did generate quite a bit of value, getting 1,600. Knights of the Realm, too, I mean, most of the cavalry, there was just, like, I mean, very hard to generate that value. The only thing you really had was that steam tank, which is, I'm sure, what these Questing Knights got all their value from, which is probably one of the biggest misplays, was allowing that steam tank to stay engaged with those Questing Knights without any of the spear or halberd support. Rest of the Peasant Bowmen generated quite a bit of value. These guys got 900. Those guys got 750. The Battle Pilgrims did pretty decent work at getting through the halberds. I mean, the Peasant mob's not going to be expecting a whole lot there. King Lewin did some good work, but pretty much at the end game, he was past the point of really being able to be killed. Outriders were able to get some nice value, but other than that, I mean, Steam Tank did okay. Mortars, not so much. And then halberds, spearmen, nothing too outlandish there. The two witch hunters did do very well in terms of getting some nice DPS. They had some nice shots into the Damsel of Life early on, just kind of steady DPS, shooting into some like Questing Knights, King Lewin throughout the fight. And then we have Geltwith had one decent final transmutation, able to whittle off some of that health from King Lewin, but overall had some Searing Doom spread across the field, a few friendly shots here and there. But that is going to be it for game 1, so we'll swing on over back to the main screen. And for the next game, Mukip is going to be going with High Elves for his pick. and he's going to be banning Greenskins and Bretonia. So pretty common picks for the High Elves. And Platypus is going to be responding with Beastmen. I know she is quite proficient with them. So again, that is a fairly good matchup against the High Elves. Just not many people play High Elves, so or not many people play Beastmen. So you're not really expecting to see that counter pick all too often. It's usually a pretty safe bet that you can just allow that potential counter to go unanswered. But unfortunately, I know Platypus does definitely play those Beastmen, so should be putting on a good show for us today for this next game. As Bucket does lead the series 1-0. It is going to be all best of threes today. And I highly doubt any of the other first rounds have finished up already. As, yeah, it looks like they are all still ongoing. Yeah, for the coming weeks here, or the coming week, we'll be having another stream tomorrow. This time it will be WWC games. It is going to be Evenstar versus Zablaski is going to be our stream for tomorrow, and depending on the time, we might have another one after that. It looks like both of our contestants for this game are ready to go, so we'll be getting on into Game 2 between Platypus and Mukip. All right, switch over to the scene. Both sides going to be loaded on in. And again, a pretty open map here. Both sides do have a little bit of a rise. But with the Beastmen, I don't think they're going to be counting on using either side of that. They are very much a rush faction. They have some longer range units, but for the most part, they are not going to be using those. So for the Beastmen side, once I can catch this army, we are going to be seeing quite a bit of mobility. We do have some Razorgar herds. We have the Butchers of Kalkengard for that monstrous frontline injury. They do have Fear, they have Terror, they have Regeneration, and they do have one more little ability, which is the Blood Greed, so plus 15 leadership. I mean, mutant psychology, they have Terror, so they already have that. But for the rest of the units, we have the Centaurs with throwing axes. We have 4 units of those. We have 1 unit of Centaurs for just a little bit of a melee. But all of those high mobility units just kind of continually outspeeding the high elf force. So they do have some nice 84 speed, which is pretty considerable. You'll outspeed any of the heavy cav of the high elves, but they will be outranged by like Illyrian Reaver archers, for example, because they have 70 range, so it's not really all of that much, but they do have some nice DPS if they are able to get into some of that higher value stuff. We have some Goreherd, the Blackhorn Ravagers, going to be coming on in as well. And for just some more Gore Herd, some Ungor Spearman Herd for that frontline Destroyers of the Drakewald. The ROR going to be taking that center rank. And they do have the Primal Fury, so they have mutant psychology when their leadership is above 50%. It will be helpful against, and they also have that Poison, which is another one of those nice things to be having, especially when you are going to be having that monstrous infantry joining in that front line, having that Poison going the other side versus towards yourself. Very helpful indeed. For the spellcasting, it is going to be a Bray Shaman, a Beast, coming in with Flock of Doom, Transformation Kadan, and Morgar, the Shadowgave, with both the Staff of Runic Corruption and the Spirit Essence of Chaos is the other one for both of those Chaos Spawn summons on the High Elf side, who are going to be moving in to quickly engage that Beastman force. Frontline going to be a bunch of Rangers, make quick work of the front line of the Ungor Spearman Herd, and they are going to be spreading out very quickly as they try and dodge the shots from the Shadow Warriors. Shadow Warriors, they do have stock, but they are going to be quickly being discovered as they fire in their first volleys in. We have a Mage of High with Apotheosis and Soul Quench, I might believe, and then we have a Princess up in the sky. Just some nice, up on the Griffin, getting some nice shots with the range, and the only thing that can really threaten her is going to be those Centaurs. We do have Dragon Princes, so the Centaurs with throwing axes should be able to get some nice damage off into those. Even the Minotaurs should do some nice damage, but they are going to be getting that initial charge into the Gore Herd with nothing to really counteract it. And we do have that Feral Manticore, though, going to be able to push back that Princess, who is already just really trying to snipe out that Bray Shaman, and that Manticore needs to really just push back that Princess as quickly as possible. And the backline going to be pretty well under protection. Lots of Lothran Sea Guard Spearmen just kind of dotted across Silverin on the two flanks, which is going to be very hard to really break into. But we do get one of the Chaos Spawn summons going to be getting into that backline, going to be pressuring back these Shadow Warriors, or looking to kind of really just pin in both of these Dragon Princes, who are both engaged. And I think the Dragon Princes may have been the better target there to kind of lock them into place, because these Butchers of Kalkengard will tear them to pieces in that frontline engagement. If you're able to get rid of two very expensive units, that could be a very big boon. All of the rest of the Cendagors with throwing axes just in that backline, just harassing, just getting as many shots in. And the Chaos Spawn did elect instead to kind of go for those Shadow Warriors as the Princess dives into that front line, just trying to whittle down the Butchers of Kalkengard, who are taking a bit of damage themselves. They do have that regen, but they are dishing it out, and then some. Both of these Dragon Princes have taken a ton of damage, already down to 50%, and they do not have, well, they have Apotheosis. They don't really have the most efficient terms of healing, and we do get, actually it was Hand of Glory, not Soul Quench. So the Hand of Glory does give that plus 24 melee attack. The reload skill not really important against them. Against Shadow Warriors, they could have been, but the Shadow Warriors, they are getting completely shattered early on, and then the other one is getting shut down by Morker and that Bray Shaman and Beast, while the Butchers of Kalkengard do find a way through that front line and are going to be turning their attention, trying to get back on to the Dragon Princes, and are going to be doing quite a bit of damage to them, as the Razorgore Herd also going to be diving on in. So a lot of engagements inside of the High Elf formation, as the Cendagors themselves try and break the Lothran Sea Guard with a nice little charge. Of course, they are Spear Infantry themselves, so they will be able to tank that fairly effectively, but just kind of slowly cycle charging, just trying to open up that back line. One of the Dragon Princes has routed, as has the second, so those Butchers of Kalkengard doing a ton of work for this front line, and they are still sitting pretty with 10 models left, and they will be regenerating throughout all of this. Now they are engaged now with Spearmen, and the Silverin Guard going to be turning their attention to these Butchers. The Butchers would like to kind of move their attention elsewhere, either probably maybe go for that Mage of High, or just kind of just try and break down other formation parts of that front line, just to maybe avoid those Silverin until last, if at all possible. And the Shadow Warriors are again another target that they do need to deal with, as the Cendagors with throwing axes going to be making sure that they do get chased down. Things are looking very well for the Beastmen. Lots of just rear charges all across the High Elf formation. The Princess is really the only unit left that is kind of uncontested, though as soon as these Cendagors, they all have a ton of ammunition left, will be able to make pretty good quick work of that Princess, just kind of keeping her honest and away from the more high value targets. So she has been able to snipe out that Bray Shaman and Beast, and I don't think I saw that. I've heard the other Feral Manticore summon. I think it has only been the one so far. So the Beastmen really would like to keep that Bray Shaman in the fight for just a little bit longer, just trying to get underneath that Princess with the Cendagors with throwing axes to get those shots in directly overhead. And they are whittling her down bit by bit, and especially now that she's landed, those shots can be finding their mark a lot easier. And once that Princess does go, I think that is going to be just about it for army losses. So it looks like Platypus coming in for very strongly in this second fight here, going to be evening out the series unless something drastic does happen. But the Butchers of Kalkengard, all of the Cendagors, I think it's going to be pretty much impossible to deal with. The Silverin Guard will hold, but just fully surrounded. Malkuth does realize that and is going to be conceding game 2. And that means Platypus taking the series to a third rubber match. We'll go over the results real quick here. Dragon Princes kind of fell a little flat, as did, actually, I was going to say, as did the Shadow Warriors, but one of the Shadow Warriors were able to generate 1,000 in total value. The Lothran Sea Guard were able to hold that backline for a while, but I mean, even the rest of the units really didn't stand much of a chance against that Beastman rush. Those Butchers of Kalkengard, I mean, I got to imagine their value is going to be through the roof. Princess, good idea there, because I mean, the Beastmen don't have that many anti-air tools. They have some, but not all too many, so I think that the idea there was really just like exactly what they tried to do, was kind of snipe out that caster, but just wasn't able to do so quickly enough. She's no Luther after all. But yeah, trying to snipe out some of the Beastman characters just did not end up working out. Now, the Butchers of Kalkengard, I imagine these values could be pretty high through the roof. Actually, not at all. I was expecting that damage to be a lot higher than that. So only 900 on these guys. So something else must have done most of that damage. I mean, the Razorgore herds did 1,000 on these guys. The Cendagors, unless I was just not seeing the arcs of fire from the Cendagors firing in, because I mean, what else could have dealt that much damage to that front line? I mean, it had to have been the Cendagors then. The Cendagors had to have been in range to be shooting, but I thought they were all too far away for that. Huh. That's, yeah, I'm kind of surprised about that. I really thought those butchers were the ones doing all of that damage against the two dragon princes who cost a lot of, I think they're 1,700 apiece. I think they're on the same scale as Blood Knights for pricing. But yeah, that was a surprise. I thought they'd have like almost 2k in total value, but I guess not. But that is it for the second one. So let's go back to the main screen, and we should be having the picks three for that last fight. So Platypus is going to be having those picks three. I mean, the spawn were there, but the spawn, at least the initial spawn summon went in towards the Shadow Warriors. So unless I missed another one that was inside of those dragon princes, but I'd only saw the one summon at least. So there might have been that second one that I just completely didn't see. But very well played on that one. So Talcor in chat, he must be finished with his game. So yeah, Talcor has won his, so he is advancing to the semifinals. He did beat Dr. Jellyfish 2-0. So we'll be getting into potentially his game after this. So Platypus for the pick three is going to be going with VC, Tomb Kings, and Dwarves, and banning Lizardmen. This is not going to be fun putting all this back. And then Mokab is going to be going Wood Elves, banning Tomb Kings. Actually, that should be the other way around. But yeah, that's... Oh, no. There we go. And then Platypus is going to be going Dwarves. So put these back. Sam will be going Dwarves for this matchup. So this is, or it has been, a very dwarf-favored matchup, at least until the latest DLC. And it hasn't, I mean, it has changed a little bit. It is probably a little bit more to even. Wood Elves definitely have more tools to help kind of break apart the dwarves. Now, this is a very large map, Cliff of Beasts. So both sides are going to really have their free range to do what they want. So I mean, dwarves can go very long range, though the high elves, or the high elves, the wood elves, have plenty of tools to kind of snipe out, like arrows of Kurnus, for example, can help deal with like cannons or any artillery crew. Way Watchers can get nice and close and kind of pick things apart. Same with like Deepwood Scouts, who also do have stock. The Sisters of Twilight have been a fairly decent pick in this matchup. Able to kind of snipe things out, a lot harder to deal with in the sky because they can keep their range just far enough out of like the danger zone to kind of snipe away more and more targets, and they have their own like arrows of Kurnus that they can bring. Looks like Mokep is ready and Platypus is ready as well, so we should be getting on into this next fight momentarily. Just waiting for Platypus to hit ready. And we'll be on into our next, the final game of the series. So after this, we should just be getting right into the semifinals. Everything should be wrapping up at that point, considering we've gone to 3 games here. So even if games have gone to 3 on the other side, there should be at least one semifinal that we can hop into after this one. And then after that, we'll kind of see how times go. So... yeah, Samuel, the prior WDC predictions, they are not very good. My predictions are pretty bad. Tomorrow, we'll be going over what the bracket looks like, because we are going to be streaming the WWC tomorrow. That is going to be Evenstar and Zablaski. And yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. There's been some upsets. I'm not going to spoil anything just yet, though. You guys can look at that. If you're in my Discord, I posted the link to the challenge where you can see the bracket updated and live. But yeah, there's going to be some interesting results so far, but yeah, my bracket is toast. Let's just put it that way. So the Longbeards for the front line on the Dwarves. So a bunch of Longbeards, high armor. They have shields as well, so they'll be able to kind of last against, I mean, anything against like Way Watchers, they'll be able to tank pretty effectively. More Longbeards, so 5 Longbeards. In the front, we do have Rangers. We'll be able to kind of pluck away at the kind of generally low armor Wood Elf faction. We have some miners as well for that front line against any potential dryads coming their way. We do have a couple of bolt throwers as well, pretty cheap long range to help kind of just pluck away, force the Wood Elves to at least respond to them, because they will generate some nice value if they're allowed to fire. We have a Rune Lord on his anvil as well, double Master Engineers for some nice fire up into the sky, and both of them did bring that fiery Ring of Thori, which is essentially the Dwarven Scabsgriths. Not quite as potent as that one, if I remember correctly, since it doesn't necessarily have all the stats and stuff. But against like Wood Elves, where a lot of it has physical resist, having that magical damage does definitely help, like especially against like Dryads and stuff. And the Rune Lord does have the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which is this one, and then the other one is the Master Rune of Grungi, which gives plus 20% missile resist, and especially against the Dawi, that is a very helpful thing, especially with the Locus of Power, plus 15% magic resist in addition to their base magic resist. And then for the... that is pretty much it. I think there should be... I would expect to see some Slayers. Yeah, so there's one Slayer there, another Slayer there protecting those Bolt Throwers. And yeah, that is going to be it for the Dawi. And now for the Wood Elf formation, it is going to be a heavy rush, as we are going to be having War Dancers for that front line. We are going to be having Wildwood Rangers who do have armor piercing to help get through those Longbeards. And they should beat those Longbeards in melee. Longbeards really aren't known for their melee capacity. There's their holding power. And the War Dancers, though, they have bonus versus infantry, but they are very low in armor, but they are very good against Slayers. They will tear them to pieces, so the Slayers have to be very mindful of getting getting those War Dancers engaged with them. But otherwise, those Slayers, they don't really have any good targets with what the Wood Elves have brought, so there's also going to be bringing Orion. We'll go over his kit real quick after we go through the backline. Just a couple of Eternal Guards, just for a little bit extra numbers, and a Spellsinger of Life, which is going to be coming in with Earthblood. Flesh to Stone for plus 60 armor will definitely help against like Ranger Fire, for example, and especially with the War Dancers who have only a base armor of 15, being able to tank some of that incoming fire will be helpful. The Master Engineer's already firing into Orion, who has the Cloak of Isha, which is only 20% damage resist now when he is below 20% HP. Foe Seeker, Hawk's Talent, Hounds of Orion, as well as the Horn of the Wild Hunt. And there is that Hounds of Orion just going to be trying to catch out those Rangers, with the Rangers going to be on top of things, and the I believe that is the Hawk's Talon going to be dropping down onto those Longbeards, and they are going to be taking kind of some damage. Really not doing a whole lot. It's really good against that nice clumped up infantry. The Miners are going to be getting some decent damages to the War Dancers, but War Dancers going to be quickly bridging that distance. And Earthblood also going to be going down, healing up what has been taken from them from that initial volley. Yeah, I don't play Wood or High Elves though, Wessel. I have no idea what Dragon Princes cost. So if the rest of the War Dancers getting in, just trying to skirt around the Dawi formation, and these Miners do want to get their volleys off if they can, but it looks like they are going to be getting compromised just before they are able to do that. We do get one of those fiery rings with Thor actually doing some very decent damage, a very nice cast too. It hit like as many units as possible on that cast, but most of those fiery rings I think would be better used against the War Dancers. With their low armor, they'll be able to take that a little better. I mean, the War Dancers, they have 40 armor, so they'll still be able to take damage, but the War Dancers will take just a little bit more. Now that Rune Lord going to have to be a little cautious now, as the Wildwood Rangers do find a hole in that formation, going to be charging on forward. And if you take a look across the line, the Longbeards are trying to hold, but they are just getting overwhelmed by most of these Wildwood Rangers, taking quite a bit of damage. Like these guys, double Wildwood Rangers against these guys. Now if there was, looks like we have a little bit of a lag here. Hopefully nothing does cut out. Things have been going pretty well so far. Oh, that is unfortunate. Let's... Alright, things moving once again. Just a small little lag there. We'll be getting right back into things. Rangers going to be just turning their attention, start firing away. Bolt throwers really haven't had any really good targets, but they have been targeting Orion and getting him down nice and low. I think another one of the targets, it may have been better to go after the Spellsinger over here, from the initial onsets, just because Orion gets very tanky when he does get below 20% HP. So because he gets that additional regen, that 20% damage resist, not as ridiculous as it used to be, but it's definitely something to be mindful of, and usually Orion's best saved for last. But bounce power is slightly, ever so slightly, in the Dawi favor, but that I don't think is going to be lasting too horribly long. Longbeards will be able to hold back these Wildwood Rangers here, or the War Dancers here. Oh no, Platypus has been dropped. Damn it. Well, Well, that is unfortunate. And, I mean, so we'll have to replay that one then. All the games so far have been really good, so... Well, that is unfortunate. So, I mean, in event of a drop, I mean, I would say replay same armies. That was unfortunate. Well, it was such a close game, too, at that point. Like, I mean, it could have gone either way. Well, that's going to be unfortunate indeed. So hopefully Platypus is going to be coming back pretty soon here. See if I can see if she's online or not. I think that was just an internet problem there. Unless she outright crashed. Guess I don't have her on my friends list then. Anyways, we have to just wait for her to rejoin, and then we'll get back into Rubber Match Part 2. It looks like we have Talcor and Lunacy are queued up then for the semifinals. And Void and Biblington are still playing in their match by the looks of things. Oh, it is the exact... I want to... It's the exact same damage as Scabswraith, but I feel like it has a slightly wider teardrop. Now, I might just be imagining that. It'd be interesting to... I should look at those stats between the two, but I think Total War Stats has that. Alright, so while they're loading in, we'll update our bracket here. Little leftovers from, so we have Talcor and Lunacy on the bottom bracket, ready to go for the semis. And then the winner of this will be down here versus Voidlaws or Biblington. Switch back to the scene as both sides are loaded in once again. Hopefully we'll be doing a lot better this time around. So it is going to be exact same armies. It's not going to be changing anything. I mean, both sides going to be... it's a rush versus a general build that's decent against a rush. So it might be slightly different deployments, but overall the flow of the game should be pretty much the same. I mean, balance power was pretty much dead even, so it's impossible to really call that one either way. Just unfortunate sometimes these things happen when you rely so heavily on internet and the multiplayer lobbies in general. If someone does drop that internet, it does not like it when it does that, even if it's just for like the briefest of moments. It likes to just kick those guys right out of the lobby then. But no matter, we will progress. So now it's going to be kind of like a mind game of which side are we going to deploy on, because both sides know what the other side has, so they know kind of what to expect. So both sides already ready to go. Platypus does kind of switch the script a little bit, going on the other side of the formation. But it shouldn't really change too much about the advance from the Wood Elves here. They'll still be charging on forward. The Bolt Throwers do reposition themselves to get a nice little target upon the enemy. And once again, both sides going to be moving forward. Pretty much, yeah, the exact same deployments on both sides. The same Longbeards in the front. We have the Rangers with the Miners, Vanguard up front. So yeah, both sides, exact same play style with the approach. So no harm, no foul in the drop. It looks like it's just going to be a little bit of RNG. Then see if it's going to change anything in that initial front line, target priority, and stuff like that. So Wood Elves, though, are being a bit more patient with this go round. They are getting their War Dancers off into the flanks a lot quicker than they were, and holding their Wildwood Rangers back just a little, ever so much, but that is going to allow those Rangers to fire into those War Dancers, who will take a lot more damage than these Wildwood Rangers. I mean, the War Dancers themselves, they have some of that physical resist, so they will be able to actually, I'm not really sure, so they have 15 armor versus 40 armor on the Wildwood Rangers, but these guys have that physical resist. Hard to say exactly which side comes out on top then, because they both have essentially no armor if you really bring it, kind of break it down. So like the Rangers will do quite well. Nice little shots of those miners splashing charges into those Wildwood Rangers, but once they are engaged in melee, aren't going to make quick work of these miners here in that front line. But they are able to get pretty much their entire salvos off, all of their ammunition pretty much spent. So nice fire in on those guys. These Rangers are going to be intercepting these War Dancers, allowing these Rangers, and those Rangers going to be wanting to pull on back here. Those War Dancers will make quick work of them, as I think we're going to be seeing one of those fiery ring authorities going to be arcing right through those Wildwood Rangers on that back line, and actually it might be allowing those miners to trade positively into those guys, might be enough to push them back. These Rangers are going to try and escape from those War Dancers. Those War Dancers definitely will have that speed advantage. I think are going to end up terrifying, that Orion ends up terrifying the Rangers and causing them to rout just before those Longbeards are able to get in. But the Rangers do kind of rout away from the rest of, away and into the jaws of these War Dancers, who should be able to finish these Rangers off on that flank. And more of the Wildwood Rangers getting into that back line, just chasing off these Rangers, and the two Master Engineers just continuing to kind of pluck away as that Rune Lord is going to be just kind of giving a nice little bit of assistance in this front line. The Longbeards are able to push back one of the Wildwood Rangers, and really these Spears just would probably like to just try and find gaps in the formation rather than get into those bolt throwers, because they're not really going to be able to do a whole lot against those Longbeards. I mean, I don't think that they have armor piercing, but they're mostly a bonus versus large. They're not really the best melee, unlike those Wildwood Rangers. We do get one of those Talons coming on down, trying to catch those Rangers, or the Slayers, as well as the Hounds of Orion. Going to be hitting those Longbeards. Might be doing a little bit more friendly damage, though, as it kind of goes into these Eternal Guard, so doing a bit more friendly damage than probably would have liked. Bounce power about where we left it when we did have that crash before. Dawi slightly ahead in the bounce power. Usually that high armor that they have allows them to kind of just slowly drag these games out just a little bit more, and the bolt throwers this time are doing quite a bit of damage to that Spellsinger. Spellsinger would like to get as many heals off onto like the Wildwood Rangers as possible, but they have been taking quite a bit of damage, and here's a very nice Ring of Thori going to be going through these Wildwood Rangers. Might be enough to cause them to run up. It looks like they are able to stabilize their leadership, as they are able to kind of dish out some nice damage into those Longbeards, especially with the assistance of these two Eternal Guard. Slayers are going to be kind of pulling back here just ever so slightly. I think they're trying to potentially screen some things out, but both of the bolt throwers are currently occupied, but these War Dancers did get caught in the crossfire by these Rangers, and that is going to be freeing up these bolt throwers. They did take a little bit of damage to their unit scale. Actually, they only have, how many do they have left? Only 2. Oh, they have a bit more. So I thought for a second they only had a couple of their units left. Bounce power is shifting more into the Dawi favor as time goes on. The Ryan is in hot pursuit of that Rune Lord. That Rune Lord does definitely not have the speed to escape from Orion. Orion has quite a bit himself. He is a monster of a character, but he is getting shot to pieces by the two bolt throwers as well as these two Master Engineers, who are just kind of sniping away, and Orion, seeing too much fire directing his way, going to be going to try and assist the other aspect of his front line. Rangers are going to be trying to deal with these War Dancers, but again, War Dancers do trade very well into those Slayers. And we take a look across the rest of the line. We get some more. It looks like the Talon's going to be dropping in right into those Slayers. Do a nice little bit of damage to those guys. War Dancers do return, shutting down the Rangers, but again, more of the Rangers going to be kind of firing in. Might be enough to rout these guys, but we have some of the Eternal Guard going to be catching up to them as well. At this point, both sides, their infantry is very beat down, and most of that balance of power, I think, for the Dawi is going to be with their hero core. So they have both the Master Engineers have plenty of ammunition left, plenty of HP as well. Bolt throwers continuing to fire away, but all of the Wildwood Rangers, the War Dancers are all on just death's door right now. There are slivers of HP. But so is the infantry of the Dawi. The Slayers are on their last dregs, and all of the Longbeards as well, just barely holding on. Not a whole lot. Another fiery ring might be enough, should be enough to break these Wildwood Rangers. And with them gone is just Eternal Guard, but we do have some War Dancers coming in for a little rear charge, which getting that penalty against the Dawi. I mean, they have very high leadership, but it might be enough to break one of them. They are wavering, but they still have one more unit of Longbeards to deal with, 18. But with that full surround off, they should be able to break this pocket here. However, the rest of the Dawi formation is going rather well. These Fiery Rings of Thor have actually been doing very well so far in this match, just roasting right through those Eternal Guard, doing a nice bit of damage to them. And with the focus fire from all these Rangers coming in to support, should be enough to pull things out. And just the constant shots from both of these two Master Engineers have been a really good counter to Orion so far, as he's trying to just dodge these shots as best he can, but yeah, just continually getting plucked away at. He is down to just one shot will finish him off. He's down to just 50 HP. As the snipers line up their shots, just trying to bring him down and just going over his shoulder there, as he is healing through all of this though, because he does have 8 points of regen per second. So the longer he is able to outlast it, the more and more he's going to be able to just kind of heal back up. But I mean, at this point, everything else of his army is pretty much gone. Rangers using up the last of their ammo to try and rout off these Eternal Guard. These War Dancers are pretty low themselves. And, I mean, the Rune Lord, though, is getting low, but there's plenty of returning troops. But the balance of power is not going to be done just yet. It's shifting back towards center. And really, as more and more of the Wood Elves, or I guess more of the Dwarves, kind of end up getting routed off, that balance is shifting in their favor. And the longer it takes, the longer Orion is going to be able to heal up, and he has a lot of healing left to do. And these two Master Engineers need to be very cautious with their ammunition, because they need to have the ammunition left to finish off Orion, because they were just seconds or one shot. That's all it would have been to finish off Orion, and the shots were just missing as Orion was able to dodge all of those shots coming in. And had that he been gone down, I don't think that the Wood Elves could make it back into this fight. But with how things are, they actually have a decent chance of doing just that. We have a fairly healthy 49 units of Wildwood Rangers coming back. Might be electing instead to be chasing after the Rune Lord. And really, at this point, Orion, he just needs to stay out of range of these Master Engineers, and they are going to try and get a bead on him, but looks like they are going to be turning their shots towards these Wildwood Rangers. Each shot is going to be peeling off some more of their units, and might be enough to rout it off with another shot, but again, they need to be cautious with their ammunition. They need to have stuff left to be able to finish off Orion, who has now healed up to 900 HP, and eventually, though, the Wood Elves are going to run out of units to really kind of just throw into the meat grinder, as the Rune Lord does return to the fight. It's going to be pushing the balance power back into the Dwarf. Well, it's been in the Dwarf's favor, but pushing it farther in. And once this last unit of Wildwood Rangers does get finished off, they do have a couple of more units left. They have some more spears. But again, Orion just needs to stay nice and safe, because the longer he lasts, the more HP he's getting back, and the closer that balance power is going to be getting back into that middle ground. But a very close game so far, as it is still undecided, despite it saying it is pretty much in the Dawi's favor. Wildwood Rangers are the last holding ground here, slowly getting their models peeled off, but they are also dishing out a lot of damage to the Longbeards as all units routing off. These Master Engineers forced to engage these Wildwood Rangers with their ammunition, but now it is down to the Eternal Guard, as these guys do get routed off. Now, they may very well return. They still have some models remaining, as the rest of the Wildwood Rangers is kind of taken their time coming in, as they just slowly feed the Dawi one unit at a time. These Eternal Guards slowly lasting, but now Orion back in range of these two Master Engineers, and they are going to be taking their sights once again against the Master of the Hunt, as they try and get some shots in. But these two Eternal Guard, or this one Eternal Guard here, is actually keeping them occupied, as that is going to allow Orion to bridge that distance. A few shots landing, doing about 150 HP to him, but he is kind of just slowly weaving his way closer and closer towards it. The Rune Lord does end up routing, and the balance of power getting closer and closer to even. And if Orion does actually elect to chase this Rune Lord, that it's going to allow allow this Master Engineer to continue to fire, but all it takes is one mighty swing of his spear, and down falls the Rune Lord, and the balance of power just quickly moving the other way, as Orion, I think, is going to be able to hard carry here, especially when he's now engaged with those two Master Engineers. If Master Engineers had just a single unit of infantry left to kind of hold them back, they are doing some. He's down to 600 health, but he's continuing. He has so much healing left to do. And again, all Orion has to do at this point is just kind of pull back out, allow all these Wildwood Rangers to whittle things down, but I don't think he needs to. He is so much of a beast when he is engaged in melee, and these two Master Engineers, their power is in their range, and I think, yeah, the Wood Elves gonna be pulling it back. Orion, hard carry, unfortunate for the Dowlings. It looks so great for them. All it took was one shot when Orion was down to 50 HP, and this battle would have been easily in the Dowies' favor. But with how Orion is, he just was able to dodge those shots. The snipers were just not accurate enough, and down falls the Dowie, and Mukip does advance to the next stage of the tournament, advancing to the semifinals and taking that next spot. But man, oh man, so let's take a look at the results here. So Orion himself getting 1700, and not a ton of value, but just the fact that he was able to stay alive and get close enough to those Master Engineers to really do that damage. All of the, like, the War Rangers, they did some decent damage across the board. While the Rangers, these guys getting 1700, really showing how strong these guys are. Both of the bolters, one of them got pretty decent value, able to really shut down that Spell Singer pretty early on, but didn't have really the best targets for healing anyways on that side. The Rangers did some decent work. The Slayers, I mean, they didn't have any good targets, but they still were able to generate some decent value. Longbeards held for as long as possible. Miners, nothing too ridiculous, but both of these Master Engineers, oh, they came so very close, 1700 per Master Engineer. But again, just one more shot. That's all it would have taken, and that would have been it for the Wood Elves. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. So that does mean we are going to be moving on to the semis. Oops, let's go to the bracket. So UKIP does take the spot here, and we'll take a look at the bracket, see if Voidlaws and Biblington are still engaged. So we'll swing on over to Talcor's lobby then, if that is still open. I know he was around in chat earlier. We'll see if they're either in game or not. Talcor's lobby, there we go. Hop on in here. So Talcor and Lunacy are going to be this next battle. And now we have to reshuffle all of these. I wish I could just kind of put every... Oh, boy. So just kind of move everything back into place for the next games. So I guess one of the downsides to this UI, there's no easy reset button. But for this one, I'll update the name tags as well real quick. So we have Talcor on the left. And on the right, we do have Lunacy. A rather interesting first matchup here. So we have Beastmen versus Vampire Counts. As we'll finish updating all of these as well. Make it real quick. I don't hold things up any longer. Oh. All right. So Lunacy is going to be playing... Actually, no, it is... they haven't done any other picks yet, so I thought it was going to be Beastmen versus Counts, but it looks like Talcor is picking first, so he does pick Wood Elves, Ban, Greenskins, and Dwarves. Oh, that is not the right one. So he'll be banning Dwarves and Greenskins. So, I mean, Wood Elves have had some decent tools to deal with the greenskins. There's been some builds, but I mean, it's kind of a wash. Like, if you're not too confident in that particular matchup, that's probably a good one to kind of ban, because otherwise, I mean, Wood Elves have pretty strong picks into everything. So just kind of center these guys, update the score as well, because it is 0-0 going in. They have not, oops, not read from file. All right. Oh, and Lunacy, feeling the need for the mirror, so he is going to be going for a Wood Elf mirror in this first game. I'm not too confident in what this matchup does look like. Hey, JG, welcome to the stream. Should be some good fun here. We are now getting into the semifinals after our first series, and I'm just gonna double check the bracket. So Void Lulz has advanced as well, so he's gonna be facing Mukip. So he did beat Biblington 2-1. So we'll update our bracket here to oops, wrong one. Oops. Only for a briefest of seconds there. But they were already loading on in, so that's no matter. So Void Lulz going to be on that top bracket, and he will be facing Mukip. But we are now going to be seeing Talcor versus Lunacy. So both sides loaded on in. There we go. So this is going to be Talcor on the blue side. And on the red, it is going to be Lunacy. So for Talcor's army, we do have a couple of Glade Guard with Hagbane tips, getting that poison and that magical attacks too, which will help against like Dryads or anything like that front line, so they will be able to bypass that physical resist. We have an Ancient Tree Man for the Lord, but it is going to be looking very heavy in the Vanguard department. So he is going to be bringing, we have Earthblood and Regrowth, as well as the Scroll of Shielding. Front line is going to be just a bunch of Dryads all the way across. We do have the Sisters of Thorn, who have poison with their ranged attacks anyways, and they have a bound Shield of Thorns, and as well as the Curse of Anraher. So 24 melee attack, minus 30 accuracy, and minus 24 speed. Very nice support cavalry to be having. A couple of Wild Riders on the flanks, so 4 in total, one of which is the Wild Hunter Valkonos. And then we do have a Glade Rider with spears, and this is one of the things that you can get when you have two Wood Elves who have full Vanguard on both sides, is they're going to be deploying really close to each other. So we have Dryads for the front line on the other side. We have, is this an exact copy of the two arms? Okay, almost the exact copy. So we have Sisters of Thorn, 4 Wild Riders. We have a Glade Lord instead, though, and a Spellsinger of Life. So essentially, it's the exact same armies, except the Ancient Tree Man takes the role of both the Spellsinger and the Glade Lord, and then there's just a little bit extra cavalry on Talcor's side. But both sides quickly engaging. These Dryads are able to kind of get some engagement. So yeah, but these are going to be Swift Shiver Charge from the Deepwood Scouts. So they do have just the magical attack. So they will do a ton of damage to the Dryads, though, bypassing all of that physical resist. But the heavy cav all on the left flank of Lunacy, circling around, trying to get into the back line. It looks like they might get a charge into these Glade Guard. But the Sisters of Thorn looking to, actually these are Dryads here trying to get into those Glade Guard, but all of the charges across the board, and a Prey of Anathrema here being used to just directly just pin down these Wild Hunters of Avernus, and it looks like we are going to be getting a Dwellers Below as well, doing a nice bit of damage here, and that is going to allow these Wild Riders to get a beautiful charge into these Wild Hunters, and it's a very expensive cav unit pretty much out of the picture here. They will be taking a bit of friendly fire from that Dwellers Below, but that charge is just going to be more than worth it, getting rid of those Wild Hunters, and this just mass of engagement here as we have the Ancient Tree Men and just all of the cavalry just collapsing upon each other, and it's going to be really hard to tell. So we're just going to pull this up just for a second so you kind of see where the lines are drawn. So we have all of Lunacy here is on that left side, and Talcor's army, which is breaking now pretty much across the board. These Dryads are getting broken. 3 of the Dryads are off the picture. All of these Wild Riders are getting pretty depleted as well. I mean, both of these Wild Riders on Lunacy's side are taking quite a bit of shots from these two Glade Guard as they are getting whittled down bit by bit, but balance power is in Lunacy's favor so far, as it is just a mosh pit of cavalry. The Deepwood Scouts can be firing on in, Really, I think having the upgraded archers here is definitely helping, because it is allowing them to just do a lot more damage. They are foregoing that poison. Of course, they do have the Sisters of Thorn, though, to give that poison where it is needed, so it is not a complete loss of that poison. And now that both of these these Glade Guard on Talcor's armies are getting compromised by these Dryads. Just all of the Dryads now are actually collapsing upon these Glade Guard, or not Glade Guard, these Wild Riders here are trying to pull them back, but there's just way too many Dryads here. That's going to be pretty much it for the ranged of Talcor's army, as the 2 Deepwood Scouts on Lunacy is still doing fairly well, getting some nice shots into the Ancient Tree Man, which again is going to be bypassing its physical resist. All of the tree spirits do have that, so that magical attacks from, or the magical damage from the ranged on those Deepwood Scouts definitely coming into play here, able to whittle down that treatment, especially now with the Prey of Anathema. Point blank range, going to be firing in, doing a lot of damage, because additional minus 22% missile resist on that Ancient Tree Man, and considering they do. So that is going to be a lot of damage going its way, and with the assistance of that Glade Lord, might just be enough to break it. We do have some Wild Riders with shields, just trying to get a little surround off, and just kind of chasing down some of the routing units. And yeah, it looks like Talcor is on the back foot here. And yeah, I think that is going to be just about it. There's just a little too much ranged units that's going to be pretty much unable to get shut down. That initial engagement, having that Prey of Anathema, having that net in a full cav engagement, just pair that with that Dwellers Below, just guaranteeing the charge when you want it, is very helpful there. And I think, yeah, the upgraded Deepwood Scouts over the Glade Guard definitely helped in just finishing off the opponent's Dryad just a little bit quicker. As, yeah, Lunacy will take game 1 in the mirror. So we'll update that scorecard real quick, as Lunacy takes game 1. We'll kind of go over the results real quick here at how things did fare. So on Lunacy's side, the Wild Riders are able to get some nice bit of value. So they did have 3 of those, and 1 of the regular Wild Riders without shields. Both of the Deepwood Scouts, though, getting over 2,000 apiece. And that, as I was kind of mentioning before, was really one of the factors that played a role into it. Having those Deepwood Scouts over the regular Glade Guard really helped there. Dryads, I mean, kind of pretty much going to be a wash against the 2. And that Spellslinger with that Dwellers Below, able to rack up some very nice damage. And even that Glade Lord, again, paired with that Prey of Anathema. And onto Talcor's army. These Wild Hunters of Kurnus, very unfortunate, very expensive loss early on in that fight. Otherwise, the rest of them really weren't able to do all too well. But again, it's almost like a almost exact mirror in terms of what the 2 armies were bringing. Same concept on both sides, except like the Glade Guard just performed pretty poorly in comparison to the Deepwood Scouts. But I mean, even these guys did get 900, so it wasn't like a complete bad pick there. And the Ancient Tree Man itself, just a little bit too much of a large target to be firing in against. That is going to be it for that one. So let's swing on over to the main screen, as they're going to be ready for the next one. So Lunacy is going to be picking Greenskin, Banning, Lizardman, and the Coast. So picking Greenskins, Banning, Lizardman, and Coast. And Coast, that matchup is a lot more even than it used to be. Definitely was Coast favored. Now it's pretty much even, though you can pretty much expect what to find when you're facing Greenskins is pretty much going to be like Archer spam, but it's still pretty even. So if you're looking to be banning stuff, I would have probably banned Counts though. But it looks like Talcor is going to be going Bretonia, and he is ready to go already. So Bretonia, a very strong faction though, nonetheless, kind of on par with what the Greenskins are seeing. Definitely going to have all the tools necessary to deal with it. They have, I mean, both sides are going to have poison galore, so you can have pox arrows on one side. You're going to be having all of those skirmish cav on the Greenskins, so both sides going to be getting plenty of poison in on both sides. And then really it's going to kind of come down to the Greenskins have a very strong front line. They have like the savage orcs. The orc boys will trade much better into all of like the peasants and stuff. However, in Bretonia, their strength is going to be in their mobility game. They have very strong like questing knights. They have all of the other like the Knights of the Realm. They just have able to overwhelm you with that mobility and kind of get into that. Well, Sisters of Thorn, Sisters of Thorn in the mirror, so they have poison as well, and especially with Lunacy's army, that was his only poison source. They also do have very good support, so they have the Shield of Thorns, so they can kind of help tank things against incoming missile fire, and they have that the Curse of a Ronhair, I think is what I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but that's the other bound spell that they have, which does reduce like accuracy, melee attack. So it does help in those cav engagements as well. If you do want it, you pop that on the other side, so your cav's going to trade a little bit better. It's really a good support skirmish cav. You could potentially drop them and go for the Glade Riders with Hagbane tips instead to get more poison instead of going for a little cheaper variants. For the cost, you still can't get two, so you'd have to kind of fudge the funds elsewhere. But mostly, yeah, it's for the poison, the bound spells. Their damage and their use as a pure skirmish cav isn't really why you bring them. And now I'm just saying that because I personally don't play Wood Elves, but from what I see with their abilities, that's kind of what I get. So yeah, Lunacy is going to be, he says, just waiting on Lunacy here. He just says 1 minute, so we should be getting underway pretty soon here in our next fight. Just kind of quickly double check everything. Make sure I'm not missing any messages in the Discord. But yeah, for the greenskin side of things, I mean, I've been using, in this matchup, I've been using like a strong Savage Orc front line, and then have a little bit of cheap cavalry, of course, with that poison and stuff from the skirmish. Well, it's not necessarily all magic damage. Well, of course, in what Lunacy brought was pretty much all magic damage, because you had the Deepwood Scouts, you had all the Dryads and stuff like that, but in like a pure cav engagement, the Wild Riders don't have magic damage. I'm saying this and I'm not confident in what I'm in that. The Hunters of Kurnos, I don't think they do either. But someone might have to touch on the stats on all of the Wood Elf units there, but I'm not entirely confident on all of those. But yeah, I mean the poison. Yeah, there's cheaper sources of poison that you can get if that's all you want. But yeah, it's still good to have that kind of support if you use it at the right spots. So yeah, okay, so the ROR do. That's as I was wondering if they did or didn't. But that was one thing that Lunacy did very well, is eliminating that ROR like immediately. So that thing did not have any chance to use that magic damage at all. Alright, still waiting on Lunacy. Hopefully he should be ready pretty soon here. And then we'll get on into our second game here. This is going to be best of 3. Now, finals are also going to be best of 3. So it's going to be a little bit quicker overall. I mean, some finals do go to best of 5s. But the way Enticity has it all lined up, it is going to be all best of 3s throughout. So far, we've had some pretty fun matchups. I mean, that last Wood Elf mirror was a little hectic and kind of hard to really kind of follow what things were doing there, especially with both sides not really having any two standout units over the other one. And oh, and if you're, I guess, joining recently or didn't hear initially, this is Anticity's ladder tournament. So in his Discord, he has a ladder system, a vast improvement upon the multiplayer quick battle system that is in Warhammer. So he uses a bot in his Discord that will automatically assign maps, match people up based on their elo. So he has an elo system that will, I mean, how other traditional elo systems are, like the stronger opponents you beat, the more elo you get, and vice versa. If you lose to someone farther down, then you're going to lose more. And then, so this particular tournament is based on those elo scores. So the top 8 players that signed up for this tournament that were available to play today were selected for this 8-man bracket. And yeah, so that's just kind of how all of that kind of works its way out. Yep. Yeah, which mirror then was that then? Because I mean, if I had to guess, it's either going to be Wood Elves Greenskin, potentially Skaven. Though Skaven mirror isn't necessarily as common as maybe it used to be. They're not that overbearing. But Greenskins and Wood Elves are kind of two of those factions where they don't really have that many strong counters, so it's a little harder to work that one out. But we are into our next match, so we'll slide on. Oh, VC, oh my god, that is unfortunate. That is an unfortunate mirror match. That is probably the most boring one that you could play. But for our 2 armies here today, we do have King Lewin Leoncoeur for the Lord. He is going to be rolling in with these 2 abilities are too similar. So this is the Sword of Crone. Actually, I don't... Oh, what? Wait. Okay. Not sure what happened there. So I took a quick screen grab of that just to make sure both sides use the same armies. Not sure. Oh, the map. Oh, okay. Oh, I just realized I didn't fix the last... At least it didn't, like, overwrite anything. Okay, so we're loading back in. So it was the wrong map. Whoops. Well, both sides saw the armies, so I mean, it's not going to be... There's nothing too outlandish one way or the other. But yeah, so we have King Lewin with that Sword of Corone, so that nice AoE debuff, so minus 24 melee defense and minus 30 armor. Don't really have to worry about that missile resist or magic. Well, magic resist, you can potentially worry about. Like Vindictive Glare is a pretty common pick here to be bringing against large targets, which can be nice to kind of mitigate that. But with how often and how quickly that thing casts, it is kind of hard to stay on top of things. So he does Blessing Ladies. He does have also the Stand Your Ground. Blessed Beloved Sons of Bretonia for the rest of the units. We do have some field trebuchets. And then we have some peasant bowmen with pox arrows for the range. Lots of cavalry though. So we have questing knights mixed in with some knights of the realm. So a total of 4 knights of the realm, or is it 5 knights of the realm? No, 4 knights of the realm, 2 questing knights, and then frontline is just going to be peasant mob all the way across. And then we have a paladin coming in with guardian and a damsel of life with Earthblood, Dwellers Below, Scroll of Shielding, and the Power Stone. So you get a nice little bit of power recharge with that. Just get as much healing as possible. Now for the greenskins, we have some Goblin Wolf Rider Archers with some Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers on one flank. Imagine there's going to be about the same thing on the other. So yeah, there's going to be Morgrim's Mage Marauders for these guys. They do have that armor piercing, so really good against questing knights. Just kind of whittle things down, and some more poison on that side. For the front line, we do have a couple of, or we have a trio of goblins just for a little bit of a shock absorber. And then it is going to be some Orc Biggins with some Orc Boarboy Biggins on the flanks for the mobility. So one of the stronger cavalry that they can bring. It's not necessarily going to be like Savage Orc Boarboys, but and then just some regular Orc Boarboys. But yeah, the Greenskin Cavalry is always fun to pronounce. We do have some Night Goblins. These are going to be the 8-peak Loonies, the ROR. For the Lord, it is going to be Grom the Paunch striding forth. And he does have all of his abilities. So that means he does roll in with that Axe of Grom. He does have the Lucky Banner, which is probably his best item to be bringing in. He does have the Great Un is here, and we also have a Language of Du Bois, which does give that immune psychology in an AoE around him. We have a Goblin Big Boss with they need Stabbin', and we have a Giant River Troll Hag with, it looks like we have Spirit Leech, and that might be aspect of the Dread Knight. So it is aspect of the Dread Knight, so that does give that 8 leadership and terror, but it does need to be pretty careful here as it is kind of getting a little too far ahead of herself. Going to be engaged by King Lewin. We have the Power Stone like the Damsel and Mither to help slow things down, and that Mither does go off on King Lewin, just kind of allowing that River Troll Hag to kind of get away, so used a little bit defensively here. I think that was definitely a little earlier cast than Lunacy would have liked to use that Mither, trying to kind of just hold those for the rest of the cavalry, which is definitely going to be needed to kind of get that charge that they want. But the rest of the skirmish cav is getting a nice surround off on the Bretonnian just position at this point, as the rest of the greenskins are going to be charging up the hill to face them as the trebuchet just kind of rains shots in across the board. And then all of the cavalry for the Bretonnians just being held at reserve, just kind of waiting to get that counter charge off, going to be tanking most of the shots now, just kind of just letting these Force Cap Spider Riders just fire into peasants. They might end up breaking 1 or 2 peasants, but for the most part, it's much better to be wasting that ammunition on them. And so I'm trying to get a charge through the lines, but they will get countercharged instead by these Orc War Boys, as the rest of the units all do kind of condense. But we do have King Lewin here to help support. However, he is going to be getting hit by that They Need Stabbin', as the rest of the hero squad from the Greenskins do charge into this fight. Now, of course, with that Sword of Corone popped on here, that is going to be helping mitigate some of that incoming damage, but he is, just because some of that's mitigated, he has taken a ton. We do get a Dwellers Below, though, which is going to be hitting a lot of these units, going to be breaking down these Orc War Boys, but King Lewin does end up routing, and that is unfortunate because that is going to be canceling his regen for the rest of the fight. So he's going to have to be relying solely on that Damsel, and that is a very big loss here. He definitely, and just I look away, and he is almost completely dead. King Lewin actually shatters. That is a massive loss for Talcor, losing King Lewin so early on. That is going to be a major problem now, because he is going to have something to deal with Grom. He's going to have to really be cautious with his cavalry. He was able to repel them from his field trebuchets, but his cavalry is going to have to be very cautious. And as I say that, these Knights of them get hit by a pretty good fanatics from those 8 peak loonies, as they do get a nice bit of damage in there, and they are still sitting nice and healthy. But here is a nice little collapse by the rest of the Bretonnian cavalry. But yeah, that is going to be very critical for Talcor, losing those units, and he is once again losing this engagement over here, as both the questing knights and those peasant mob are going to be getting pushed back by those Orc Boar Boys and those Orc Boar Boy Biggins. And yeah, I think that might just be about it, losing King Lewin so early on, and he got way too far away from his Paladin. Paladin was pretty much still staying in the front line, though he is going to be giving that Guardian to that Damsel, though with Grom charging on forward, getting that Mither down on that Damsel, and that is going to be it's for that Damsel of Life, as she does get end up routing, taking some massive hits in the meantime from Grom the Paunch. And I think with that spellcasting gun, as she does go down herself, is only the Paladin and the Cavalry, and that Cavalry just not going to be able to hold back the tide, especially without the support of all of the archers. And yeah, that is going to be a rather strong victory for the Greenskins. I just don't think there's going to be any way back for the Bretonnians. Their questing knights are getting pretty low, and Grom with that River Troll Hag just going to be very hard to bring down, just everything going to get Spirit Leech. And yeah, that is going to be army losses. A very quick win on Lunacy's side. And that is going to be it for our first semifinalists, all going to be wrapped up and done. So Lunacy takes the game 2 here, so we'll just kind of update that real quick so to reflect that. And then we'll go over the after battle report, very quick on the draw. Morgan Painter Marauder is still able to generate some good value throughout the fight, but the cavalry, I thought, would have been doing a little bit better, but they were able to at least generate some decent value fairly early on. The Orc Biggins, the Apic Loonies, rest of it, but really the hero squad. So the Giant Ritual Light getting 1,000 in tomes, but Ground the Punch 1,500, and even the Goblin Big Boss able to rack up almost 900 in total damage value throughout that fight. And King Lewin on the Bretonnian side, unfortunately, he even lost out to that Damsel of Life in terms of overall damage, and he just melted so very fast in that fight. And losing him, I mean, that was just pretty much it at that point. The rest of his cav just wasn't going to be able to hold up, even though they had some decent value throughout. They just, yeah, losing King Lewin so early on is, oh man, that is rough. But yeah, Lunacy is going to be on to the final, so we'll switch to the bracket. We'll update that, and then we will switch on over to Voidlaws and Mukip if they haven't already started playing. So they are currently in battle on Karak Ungor, so that should be game 2. So we'll just kind of hang out here then until they are done. And we'll, in the meantime, we can fix our UI. So we're ready for the finals. So that's fine with them getting started. That's kind of how Anticity's been doing his picks anyways, is everyone's just kind of free to play. Oop, did that again. So we'll be getting into maybe game 3, depending on how this game goes. They are on Karak Ungor, which I think is the second map. So they are on the second map. So whenever they finish up, we'll just kind of pop into that lobby and just see if things are going on or how things are going. But yeah, Lunacy played very well in that series. He won pretty convincingly against Talcor there. Both games were over pretty quickly. But then it is going to be either Voidlaws or Mukip, which are both very good players. Voidlaws has been doing actually really well recently. He's been going quite far in some tournaments. So, I mean, the only thing with that is, I mean, the load-in times when you're playing with Voidlaws are pretty long. But we'll be able to get through that if he does make it through to the finals. It would be nice to actually cast Voidlaws and Mukip. That should be some pretty good games. Continue just fixing up this. Hopefully they're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. I'm just keeping an eye on their battle just to jump in when they do finish up. All right, all set. Now we're just going to be waiting for our next battle to be open and ready to play. So we're either going to be going into the finals, or it'll be game 3 between Mukip and Voidlaws. So just hang tight for that, and we'll be getting underway as soon as we can. I guess now, while we're waiting as well, I might be able to pull... We'll go over that tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be our WWC tournament cast anyways, so we're just going to go over that bracket and how things have been faring so far. There's definitely been some very fun games and some good series up until this point. But yeah, it's going to be... I don't want to spoil anything just yet. I mean, some of you guys probably already know some of the big upsets up until this point. There's definitely been some big names. You're probably going to be pretty surprised to see them fall in early on, and then maybe some lesser known names kind of going a little bit farther than they should. Yeah, waiting for the game to finish up there between Mukip and Voidlaws. Like, whatever the outcome is, hopefully it's over fairly soon. I'm not sure exactly when they got into their last game here. Hopefully everyone's been enjoying I mean, this isn't WWC, but hopefully everyone's been enjoying all of the streams and casts from all the different content creators so far. I know there was a couple of streams on Saturday, and I've been doing some best of 5 casts for individual series up until this point, but hopefully, yeah, we should be getting at least one series streamed live tomorrow. which will be Evenstar and Zablasky, which should be a very good series to be streaming. Now the Slade X, I was hoping that he would advance. I was not necessarily that I expected him to win, but I wanted him to win. His builds are always so much fun to have. Yeah, his builds definitely have a little bit more out there, but he's able to make all those builds work, which really says something about him as a player. Like he's really good, and if he is like, I don't know, I mean, part of it is his builds though. It's like he uses all these crazy builds, and like eventually he'll throw in like a meta build here and there, and then it'll just kind of like throw his opponents for a loop, because it like you expect like to see like these ridiculous armies, where yeah, he brings like either like full Vanguard Goblin army against you with all these fanatics, and then the next game he's going to bring like Savage Orcs and a normal army. I think my favorite army that I've seen of him recently has been his Dark Elf versus Norska army, where it's just a bunch of Witch Elves, Sisters of Slaughter, for that front line, where it's just ridiculous, and it works. It's worked both the last 2 times I've seen it. Yeah, I mean, Lewin did get they need stabbing on him, but he had sort of Corone going off. It was kind of I was kind of surprised to see him drop that fast. I don't know, he just got super unlucky on the draw there and just took way more damage than I expected him to in that fight. Nope, not yet. Still in game. Yeah, hopefully we'll be getting underway for some more action momentarily. Just kind of waiting on our next one. It is going to be either Mootkip or Voidlaws. Let's kind of take a little update on how the bracket has been so far. So this is the semifinals onward. If we look back, or I guess I'll look back and tell you guys what the rest of the ladder was like early on. So the results from the best, or the round of 8, we had Voidlaws versus Biblington, and Voidlaws advanced 2-1. We had the Platypus and Mootkip took that game 2-1. Then we had Talcor and Dr. Jellyfish, and Talcor won that 2-0. And AC Moore versus Lunacy was the last of the quarterfinals, and Lunacy did win that one 2-0. And so far we have seen Lunacy versus Talcor, and Mootkip versus Voidlaws is currently in progress. They are in game 2 of their series, so again, once they are finished up with that, we'll jump on in as soon as it becomes available. And either go into the finals, or we'll be getting into the game 3 matchup between those two. So it should be some good fun heading forward. So yeah, if we're looking, I'm just looking quickly at the WWC bracket. We have a few people have already advanced past the round of 32, but most of the round of 64 matches have been all played. I think we're just waiting on one left from the round of 64, round of 32, and that's all supposed to be finishing up on the, I think the deadline was initially set for tomorrow, I want to say, from that initial schedule that was posted back. I included it in my video going over all the brackets, but yeah, everyone should be getting through the round of 32 pretty soon here, and then this next weekend's supposed to be that round of 16, and getting into setting things up for the semis in the next coming couple weeks. And then I think the finals is supposed to be the weekend after this, so a little bit more spread out, but with how all the time zones have been working, it should be just kind of getting everyone scheduled and stuff like that, because we don't want people just not being able to play due to like time constraints on a weekend or something like that. We want as many people possible. Okay, might have just seen an update in the, where did it go? I don't see the lobby at all anymore, so they may have just finished, or let's see. I'll take a look at the, okay, so, oh nope, that hasn't been updated yet. I saw the lobby just a second ago, and now I don't see it. So I'm guessing they just finished up, so I think we're going to be getting into the finals here in just a second. Keep refreshing the list, but they must have just finished their series. Okay, so they did finish. And Void Laws is going to be advancing. He did go 2-0, so I'm just going to host the lobby for that. So, it's the finals. So, Lunacy and Void Lulls. I know I have Void Lulls on my friends list. I don't know if I have Lunacy. Hey, Blackthorn, welcome. So, just getting into the finals now. Pulling both sides in. So, there's Void Lulls. And I didn't see Lunacy on my list, so might need to add him and then get him thrown into the mix. So get a lobby set up. This lobby is open, so if Lunacy or Void Laws is listening in stream, that is set. It is Enticity Finals. And I'm just going to send friend code over to Lunacy so he can see the final lobby. Oh, he does have that. Did I just lose audio, though? Nope, I hear audio. Okay, it was just a quiet little bit in that. So I'll ping them both in the Discord as well. I'm not sure where either. I think Void Lulls is Russian. I don't quote me on that, but I think he is. Lunacy, I don't know. I have no idea where he's from. So both are Russian speaking. Okay. So maybe Lunacy is as well. I don't know where he's from. I haven't seen him. All right, Lunacy just added me, and I'll send another invite over to Void Lulls to get him over to the lobby. Hey everyone, just in time for the finals. Okay, we have both people in the lobby, so we'll have Void Lulls on the left. And on the right, we do have Lunacy. So Voidlaws is top of bracket, which means he is going to be picking first. And speaking of the bracket, we'll kind of show that. So Voidlaws did beat Mukip in that last series. He did win 2-0. Yeah, now it is Lunacy versus Voidlaws. All right, so it should be fun because I played Voidlaws recently. He played Greenskins. I think he plays a lot of Greenskins, so I'd be pretty expecting to see him pick him at least at some point. I don't know if he'll first pick or if he's going to go for more of a counter with them. But yeah, I'm definitely kind of expecting to see Voidlaws in his repertoire today. Looks like he may have finished off with Beastmen or in that last series. Not sure what those two matchups were, but should be a good fun for this next series. Oh yeah, first map is Altdorf Outskirts. I do need to set those maps here. The map is set. So it'll be Altdorf Outskirts, River Amaxon, and Gorgazon for the 3 maps in this series. So he is going to be going Greenskins, and he's going to be banning Greenskins and Lizardmen. So he's going to save us from the horrors of another mirror today, as he's going to be banning that exact mirror. Just kind of showing how strong that pick is. And Lizardman, though, is a very common ban for the Greenskins. It is probably their best counter. I think VC is probably another one, so we might be seeing that from Lunacy. But yeah, and especially, yeah, Voidlaws knew that Lunacy plays Greenskins a lot. I think that's kind of just nipped that thing in the bud just real quick there, especially considering how Lunacy was so gung-ho about going. Yeah, everyone's a Greenskin main nowadays, especially considering they really haven't gotten dialed back at all since their big buff. Because, I mean, before Gromlin the Paunch, it was, if you were a Greenskin main, that was a bold move. Yeah, but now they're easily top tier faction, along with like Wood Elves and Bretonnia are probably the top 3 right now. Skaven were definitely up there, and the last kind of nerfs knocked them down, I'd say, to like the 4th spot or something like that. But yeah, you're always seeing Greenskins. And if you've seen the stats from the round 3 of the Warhammer World Championship, they got picked like almost double than most other factions. Like they were picked, I might pull that up here in a second, but it looks like Lunacy might be going Wood Elves. Like they had like the highest win rate, highest depth, like far and away highest pick. It was like out of all the matches played, I think it was 253 total picks. Where it was pretty ridiculous on how often they were picked, and their win rate, I mean, just goes to show how strong they are right now. They have like the most efficient roster in the game, pretty much. Yeah, I'd like to see counts too. So yeah, Lunacy is going to be going Wood Elves. Just confirming that with him. And yeah, that is, I mean, Lunacy, he's been playing, we've seen him play Wood Elves already earlier today. So he's definitely going to be feeling pretty good with that. So yeah, I mean, if we'll pull, see if I can pull that into the screen real quick. I don't know if I have that saved. Well, they're picking their armies. Let's see, because it was posted in... Okay, let's see if I can save this real quick and I can pull it up. Okay, we're going to pull in the stats where we're waiting on all of this. So... Okay, here we go. This is the stats from round 3. And so yeah, we have like the greenskins picked 239, 55% win rate, or almost 56, and that was the highest, like just a bit over VC, but VC was picked only 72 times in comparison, so VC is a strong counter pick faction, very weak on the first picks, while greenskins is a very strong first pick faction. And then the most representative sample set, but yeah, you get like the Wood Elves are picking 120, Lizardmen 140, Empire 127. So the most common factions were those 4. Empire being a very common faction where it's like they're not bad against anything, but they're not really good against anything. And yeah, VP definitely seeing that. I mean, picked only 35 times. The lowest pick, even Beastmen were played more than Coast, and they have a 25% win rate. Coast has fallen very far from grace. They have been so strong, and now they're just way down. Yeah, and Chaos, like the changes to like the Foot Lords was a big. Oh shit, they might be ready. Oops, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't be. But yeah, looks like Void Laws is ready. I wasn't even paying attention to this. But yeah, I mean, Coast such a bad win rate now. It's kind of ridiculous. Let's see, Dawi, yeah, 33%. No, really, I'm kind of surprised by the Dawi one. But it's like both sides are ready here, so we're going to load on in. So we'll just leave this up for just a little bit as things get ready, so everyone gets a good chance to look at it. We'll pull it probably up after this next match anyways, again, to go through it even a little bit more. But Coast deserved it. I don't know if they deserved it that much. That is a really major fall. It's almost not to the same extent, because Norsko was like top tier faction before the last patch, and then they fell far from grace, but Coast just dive bombed. But we'll switch that scene on over here real quick. We'll also hide this, and we'll switch back on over to here as Void Lulls and Lunacy are loading on in. Yeah, Lizardmen are a really well-rounded faction, though. I mean, they're a really good first pick as well. I mean, they've kind of been slowly creeping up without a whole lot of changes their way. I mean, but it does help, though, that Coast got such a big nerf, because that was one of their big counters. Yes, Norska did not deserve it. I love playing Norska themselves, but to an extent, though, they deserved a nerf, but not to the extent they got it. But it was really just they got over nerfed, and now you just don't see them anymore. I mean, I don't think the boat was that. It's more as they didn't change the right things about boat and pendulum. Well, Enticity is Enticity. He's not human with Coast. He is a very different player when it comes to that. Yeah, Norska, it's so surprising. Well, I guess it's not so surprising, but they relied so heavily on breaking enemy front line so very quickly, and taking that away from them, they didn't have any other tools. That was their big thing, was just decimating front lines and just flooding into the back line so quick, because it's very hard for Norska to go super wide. And like, they have other strength, like Skin Wolves are strong, their Mammoths are very strong, but it's just like, it's the change, like other small changes, like adding mass changes, so Norska can't just push through front lines anymore. Like Trolls, you didn't see Trolls too often, but you could take Trolls and just hit the front line and keep going, and now it's a lot harder to do that. So for the Greenskins, being led by Void Lulls, everyone is now loaded on in. I do see Grom the Paunch, so we can go over his stats. So he is only bringing Lucky Banner. We have the Great Un is here, and we do have a Language of Du Bois. He's a fairly common pick here, but he does have to be very careful of like Deepwood Scouts, for example, just kind of tearing him into pieces with like the Swift Shiver shards. I think is the one that does the most damage to him. We have some 8P Cloonies in that front line, otherwise it's going to be mostly just some Gobos. Very light, cheap chaff infantry, but we are going to be seeing 4 Stone Trolls, and this is kind of a risky gamble, I think, because the front line is just so lightweight. Like these Trolls are very likely just going to be fighting up by their lonesome, and they can easily get focused down themselves. While we do have some Goblin Wolf Chariots to boot as well, we have a Orc Shaman coming in with Brain Bursta. I think that is Headbutt and Scroll of Shielding. So I have Headbutt and Brain Bursta, which are very good against the Wood Elf archers, just being able to kind of blow them up very tightly packed, able to kind of really whittle them down. On the flanks, we do have some Forest Goblin Spider Riders with some Goblin Wolf Rider archers, some of the melee Forest Goblins on the back line, and then another Forest Goblin and Goblin Wolf Rider on the other flank. So a little bit of skirmish cap, not going full in on that, but for the Wood Elves, it is going to be a little bit more full in. So we have some Glade Riders with Hagbane tips and some regular variants, and then we have some more Glade Riders, some more Hagbane tips, so 2 poison sources. We also do have the Sisters of Twilight going to be taking flight on their dragon this time around. So they do have, I believe they'll be having Conjoined Destiny. We have that Har's Tenacity, which is for being on the dragon, and there is Conjoined Destiny. And then, of course, you have that Breath Attack, that Fear Terror also, and that Conjoined Destiny. It's especially with what the Greenskins have, they should be able to pop that when fairly easily. There's not too much of a risk at being falling. They just can't be blobbed it. But we do have some Eternal Guard going to be sitting off in the tree line. Most of that's going to be all in the Glade Riders, so they're just going to be trying to kite away for as long as possible and springing the trap with some Lost Sylvan Knights kind of thrown into the mix as well. But this is kind of one of the things you're going to be getting with Wood Elves, is a full kite, full mobility. Going to be very hard for the Greenskins to really lock these guys down. But yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. Chaos is definitely much stronger. A lot of that comes with their lords just being so much more reliable or unkillable, like Sigvald is. But yeah, Greenskin's definitely going to be in a little bit of a predicament this one, as they're going to be having to just slowly kind of advance, just trying to tank as much of these Glade Rider shots. And really, these Glade Riders, they should not be firing in on these Stone Trolls. They can tank that damage and just regen through it. If they eliminate like all of the Goblins, get rid of these 8P Loonies, which they should be able to do fairly easily, and then just kind of snipe things out with the Sisters of Twilight. The Sisters of Twilight can also be pretty like pretty ambitious with their sniping, because they don't have to fear too much with the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, because they have that Conjoined Destiny. They can pop that a little early on. Actually, do the Wood Elves have caster there? So they do have a Branch Wraith, just double checking that. So they have Branch Wraith, so they'll be having some healing, I'm sure, with them. And the Lost Sylvan Knight's going to be charging forward. And one thing, actually, did I not... So we do have the Orc with some magic damage, but those magic damage is not going to be able to do that much Lost Sylvan Knights. If they are engaged in melee, like tightly packed, they can probably whittle things down bit by bit, but that only magic damage source is with the Brain Bursta and Headbutt, which is mostly for like pretty cheap chaff, or for archers and for stuff like that. So the Sister Twilight just using up their ammunition, just kind of slowly plucking away, as all of the Glade Riders just going to be firing with their shots, running with some Glade Riders themselves with spears, just going to be keeping all of the Greenskins at bay. And this is just going to be a very long kite process, I think, for both sides here, as just the shots just going to be continually raining in across the board. But of course, the Glade Riders here have used up a fair amount of their ammunition early on, and Grom needs to be a little careful at this point. That Sister of Twilight could easily dive down, but that might be a kind of a trap. But with how far he is, that could have been a very good opportunity for the Sisters of Twilight to dish out some damage to Grom there. They will be getting some shots raining in against Grom with that single shot. But yeah, I think that could have been a very good opportunity for the Sisters of Twilight to get some nice free damage in. The Lost Sylvan Knights are just going to be continuing kind of cycling away, just kind of getting whatever charges in they can. And Sister Twilight, they'll have used up quite a bit of their ammunition, and they don't have a whole lot to show for it. If you kind of just look at what the Greenskins have taken, they've been able to tank this damage fairly well at this point. I mean, their skirmish cav has taken a little bit of damage, but I mean, these trees are blocking a lot of the shots in, being directed at ground the punch, and I think trying to snipe out or skirmish down like the regenerating characters here is a bit of a mistake on Lunacy's side. Eliminating all of the infantry support would probably make, like, all you have is spears left in that back over there. So once all of the ammunition is spent, they'll be coming out. And if it's just stone trolls, they should be able to bring them down if they have zero infantry support. And especially with the terror caused from the Sisters of Twilight, I don't think those stone trolls would be that much of a problem if they're able to just eliminate the support of the stone trolls. They don't need to kill the stone trolls at this point. But that is, I mean, that's just kind of what I'm seeing so far. Yeah, I mean, the problem is with Wolfragon Mammoth, though, is he's often... I mean, he doesn't have enough armor. He can be bogged down. Like, the mass infantry is kind of one of the problems. Yeah, Chaos, that's another thing. The Hell Cannon, you have to at least expect a Hell Cannon or have tools to deal with it. And you have to have tools to deal with very strong melee lords like Archaon, Sigval. You have to have something to kill them. But yeah, Caster Lords on Norsca would be very fun to have. But they still have very strong hero casters. This is the only heroes that have that Arcane Conduit. As you kind of see how this game is kind of going, is just kind of going off on tangents in chat. It's a very slow fight so far, but I think that the Greenskins are actually taking this fairly well. They're able to push their Stone Trolls up in front of the rest of their units. They pulled back like their AP Loonies, even their Goblins. They kind of pulled them back, and just trying to get these Glade Riders to waste as much of their shots from possible. And again, just all of the region that they have are just going to be pretty, like, just very resistant to this kite. And I think the Wood Elves need to... a little bit of a lag there. Hopefully we don't see too much more of that. But it's going to be a nice, long, relaxed battle so far. Nothing too ridiculous. Just taking a look at chat, how things are going, but... also, depending on the map, too, Hell Cannons can do rather well. And at the very least, Hell Cannons force a reaction to it. Norsca, maybe not bad. I don't know if as bad as Dwarves. I think Dwarves are still in a pretty good spot, despite how the stats looked early on. The stats are for the round 3. Like, the Dwarves, I think, still have some pretty good matchups. So that mass definitely helped them quite a bit. Ooh, High Elves have some interesting tools against Norsca, though, that is rather annoying to be using. Pretty stationary line so far in this fight. Nice and exciting gameplay so far. I mean, very, very patient gameplay, and that is one thing I have noticed with Voidlaw's gameplay, is he is a very patient when he comes to playing with things. He will make sure he just uses up all of his ammunition before committing, and he's not going to be taking any bad engagements for the most part. Like, he's going to be playing a very patient game. That's one thing you kind of have to expect from him, is that patient gameplay, especially with like Wood Elves and Greenskins, both with that kiting power. He's going to be very cautious, trying to waste your ammunition or waste your abilities. Like this one right here, he was able to dodge that breath attack on those AP Loonies, and so that is a completely wasted breath attack. And these Sister Twilight are starting to take a bit more damage, and of course they do have that Conjoined Destiny, as I mentioned before, but that Conjoined Destiny, you don't want to be just completely wasting it, although they will be able to heal them up nice and pretty. I'd say Norsca used to have 2 bad matchups, but now they have quite a few. So far, very patient gameplay both sides. We are almost 8 minutes into the fight so far, as ammunition still plenty to spare on both sides. Luckily, we did set the timer to be nice and long, so we don't have to worry too much about this. These units are going to be getting a little Earthblood off, healing them up, Sister Twilight and the Glade Riders. Sister Twilight, I don't know if that healing was necessary to that point. Well, especially on the Sister of the Twilight, probably groups up some more of the Glade Riders to get that. But yeah, at this point, Greenskins, I think the Greenskins have a very strong position at this point. The only, I think, problem is dealing with the Lost Sylvan Knights. And the Lost Sylvan Knights, thinking about it, they were thinking about charging into those Stone Trolls, but they will be charging to the other ones. So they will be getting a little chip damage here and there. But yeah, I think the Lost Sylvan Knights are going to be the biggest problem. I know the Greenskins have been exceptionally patient. I mean, completely patient. They haven't used up any of their Winds of Magic. Definitely waiting on using that until the time is right. Yeah, this is a Greenskin, another game where it's like you have two factions who can kite and who can take a kite, though, very well. All of these Stone Trolls, I think that's a rather unfortunate thing for Lunacy, is all of these Stone Trolls, they're just roadblocks at this point. They're roadblocks while the Greenskins just kind of wait out the ammunition of all these Glade Riders, because they're not going to do any damage to these Stone Trolls. They need to try and whittle down these Goblins, but the Stone Trolls are doing a good job of screening out all of these Glade Riders as they're just trying to get as much damage in. Grom's going to get a little charge, and he could get a little surrounded here, but he does have those Stone Trolls right next to him to support. But yeah, he's going to be getting in a couple attacks on the Lost Sylvan Knights. Yeah, exactly, Biblington. That's exactly what the Greenskins are doing. And as I mentioned before, Voidlaws is exceptionally patient when you play him. You have to expect that he is going to take it slow. He's going to play it to just get as much value out as he can and deny you that value. I'd say Norska is also bad against dwarves. I used to pick them into dwarves, but they just can't handle like the front line anymore like they used to be able to. Like the loss of the Pendulum and Boat is just massive against the Dawi. We are getting a little engagement off to the side here, and as I say that, things slow down just a little bit. But Stone Trolls and Grom get a little bit damage into the Lost Sylvan Knights, but they are able to pepper Grom and give him a little send-off damage. But that is going to be wasting more and more of these Glade Riders' ammunition. And those Glade Riders, and actually one of them did get caught out and routed. A little lapse in micro there as the Glade Riders, they have a little bit of ammunition left, but those Stone Trolls took none in return. I believe the Sisters of Twilight have tanked a lot of the incoming fire from the Greenskins as well, and are actually probably pretty close. Actually, they have probably another, I'm not really sure the exact threshold in terms of HP that they have to drop below to hit that Conjoined Destiny, but I want to say it's like about 800. As where that Conjoined Destiny starts to trigger. Yeah, it would not surprise me to see Greenskins in the next game either, because yeah, Wood Elves and Greenskins are two very strong factions to be good at right now. Because you can first pick either one, and they have strong counters to a bunch of different factions. But in terms of the skirmishing so far, the Greenskins have used up almost all of their ammunition themselves. Well, I say that. They still have two of the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers and the Forest Goblin Spider Riders that have a bunch of ammunition themselves, while the Wood Elves are almost on the last legs of their own. So while this hasn't been necessarily exciting gameplay so far, it has been rather technical gameplay, where everyone is just really trying to get just optimize the damage. But yeah, the Wood Elves, I mean, once they use up all their ammunition, though, I don't know what they're gonna do. They haven't been able to like finish off the 8 peak loonies like in terms of health that get them below 25%, and they definitely haven't been able to bait out any of the Fanatic casts. So they're going to be able to just wreck that spear line, as yeah, all of the cavalry is just about it in terms of ammunition, and we have about a volley left on most of the Glade Riders. This one has a few, and the Sisters of Twilight are just trying to dodge as many shots as they can, while it looks like they are slowly advancing with their Eternal Guard at this point, seeing that they're going to have to commit to melee sooner or later. Yeah, I would say Norska versus Empire is heavily unfavored, just because like Kite is very, you can go heavy Kite, you can go with like Huntsmen as well are actually very strong against Norska, and yeah, Knights of the Blazing Sun really counter Norska's, one of their best units is their Skin Wolves, and Knights of the Blazing Sun dumpster them. But it's not completely unfavorable. Norska still can trade rather well. I just would much rather not play it anymore. We are going to be seeing some magic, though, from Voidlaws as we get some Lost Sylvan Knights going in. Yeah, but now the Goblin Wolf Chariots have used up the last of their ammunition. I mean, both sides, though, have been trying to waste the ammunition completely. So it's like you have the Sister of Twilight just kind of dancing back and forth, trying to dodge as much of the damage from the Greenskins, and the Greenskins have just been trying to just block as much of the incoming fire from, like, with the Stone Trolls, Grom's regen, using the trees to an extent, but they've been keeping most of their units out. So, I mean, it's not, then I wouldn't say neither side has really been breaking any rules. They've just been skirting the edges of the rules, maybe, but both sides have been pretty much doing the same strategy here. As we're getting a little bit of healing off onto this, as I think we had some Brain Bursters over on this side, missing those out, missing those casts earlier. We have started to see a little bit more, I say a little bit more, action on both sides. We've been getting some spell casting and some more poke damage here and there as the arrow of the Eternal Guard slowly marches their way forward. Now, what would be really unfortunate is if the next game is Wood Elves on Voidlaws versus Greenskins on the Lunacy side, and we get part 2 of this matchup. But so far, the Greenskins have done a much better job at tanking this. At the same time, Lunacy is going to have to come out of this little tree here. So he doesn't. So Voidlaws just needs to continue just kind of firing away with like his Forest Scum Spider Riders, and Lunacy does need to advance, and he is going to be pulling forward out of the trees because he hasn't been shooting either. So it's kind of on both sides. Well, I mean, Forest Camp, you still have, I mean, to an extent, though, yeah, Lunacy does need to either start using his ammunition or start engaging. But Grom is getting it, but he did bait out a very nice Brain Burst there, so getting everything all nice and blobbed up, followed up by a Headbutt, so that's going to be a lot of damage against the Wood Elf formation here, and the Wood Elves do need to pull out of the tree or start using ammunition. Yeah, hopefully we don't get close to that 60-minute time, but there is going to be some engagements. I'm just going to, let this kind of play out for the most part. But yeah, this is definitely a very long, drawn-out game, and the Wood Elves do finally pull out of that tree line, so that we're not going to be having that problem with that forest Gromma must leave game. Yeah, I think Greenskins are going to be able to have it. There's just too much left. And the Eternal Guard, just that last little combination of Brain Bursta and Headbutt was really the biggest spell casting there. It did so much damage to these Eternal Guard, which, what else is going to kill those Stone Trolls but the Eternal Guard? Because, oh wow, I completely missed out on these Lost Sylvan Knights taking a ton of damage themselves. And I think, yeah, Grom and these Stone Trolls now at this point are just going to be taking it to the Wood Elves. Wood Elves just didn't have the stopping power. We're getting a nice little Fanatics cast as well. Going to be going right through, hitting some Goblins as well, mostly going through all of those Eternal Guard. And finally, that Orc Shaman is getting sniped out by the Sisters of Twilight with the last dregs of their ammunition. And the Sisters of Twilight have not used their Conjoined Destiny, and it has not popped just yet either, but if they wait too much longer to try and get that healing off, the rest of the Wood Elf formation is finally going to just completely crumble away, and I mean, some of the stone trolls are starting to waver just a little bit. We get a little bit of a terror into that mix, but with Grom engaged in melee, who has just about reached his healing cap, which is one of the problems, and that Conjoined Destiny, though, is going off, but at the same time, the Greenskins are trying to just force past their way forward, and the Sisters of Twilight do end up routing, but if they are able to take off with the direction they're going, and the Greenskins are on a timer here to finish off the Sisters of Twilight, otherwise they will get a very juicy heal. But Lunacy, seeing that kind of things not going so well in the end, a very patient play on both sides, boiled down to a very quick final confrontation in terms of melee. Stone Trolls, yeah, they just were way too healthy at the end to even be killed by the Wood Elves, I think, at that point. Sister Twilight using up all their ammunition and just really just baiting out Orc Shaman, though, that all that damage done, 2,000 damage for total value for Void Lulls. We'll update the scorecard quickly as well, but definitely not the most exciting game. But next map, Troll Country. Well, next map, we'll see what that is. I'm not the one that decided these maps. Lost Sylvan Knights actually generated some decent value, but they do cost 2k in total. It's kind of quickly just breezing through all of the values on all sides. The skirmishers on the Greenskins did some pretty decent work. Even these Goblin Wolf Chariots, they were able to land enough shots against those Sisters of Twilight, and being reserved enough not to dip her below that Conjoined Destiny. But yeah, the Orc Shaman really was kind of what kind of broke the killing power of the Wood Elves in that fight. Okay, so Lunacy is going to be going in Greenskins, banning Lizardman and VC, and this next map is River Amaxon. Unfortunately, that does mean it's a rather large map. It does have some forest in it as well. It's going to be, we'll see what Void Lulls goes with here. Yeah, Talco, we're going the other way on this. Grom's not toxic enough. We need to give him more. Yeah, lots of different options for the Greenskins to get a little dialed back, but the CA definitely does love their Greenskins though, so I wouldn't be holding my breath on any changes anytime soon. But Lunacy, so his pick is Greenskins, banning Lizardmen and Counts. So now we're just waiting on Void Lulls' pick here to see which way he's going to be going for this Game 2 match. That was a very long Game 1, but hopefully we're going to be seeing some little more quicker, exciting games from this point on, though the possibility is still there for another Wood Elf versus Greenskin matchup. Let's hope Void Lulls doesn't do that. Gaze of Nagash, though, is rather expensive, and it's on a lore that uses that the healing and the summons is just worth it more than having Gaze of Nagash, because you usually don't see Gaze of Nagash, even though it is actually a pretty good missile spell. But Be'lakor is going to be, or Be'lakor, that's what he's going by, but Void Lulls is going Skaven today. That doesn't necessarily discount the fact that he can still kite with Skaven, but he will be going Skaven. But another very strong faction to be being played by Void Lulls. They're in a very, I think Skaven are in a pretty good spot right now. All right, so now hopefully we get into game two pretty soon here. It is going to be Skaven versus Greenskins. It is going to be on River Maxon, as I mentioned before. But it is a, again, very large map. It is going to probably, it can lend probably to the Skaven's favor to an extent, because you do have a little bit of impassable terrain, which will allow them to either secure a flank, or there's plenty of open space, though, between the two, even if you are going through the tree line to kind of block most of it. But in terms of this particular matchup, it's not necessarily... I mean, I'd say it's a fairly even matchup between the two. I mean, both sides have, like, tools that are just such a pain to deal with. You have, like, regenning on both sides. You have, like, Stone Trolls, you have Grom, you have Hags, you have... and then on the other side, you have, like, Poison Wind, the mobility, like the Wolf Rats, and the... Brood Horrors are still a problem to deal with, but now, I mean, when you compare like the Brood Horrors versus like the Packmaster on Brood Horror, the Packmaster is actually the better option if you have the hero slots to do so. But normally you're probably going to be bringing at least an Assassin in almost any matchup with Skaven. It's just very nice to have those, especially if you're going for like Skrulk, any of the Grey Seers, you need something for a little bit of damage. Yeah, we'll see what both sides do kind of go with. Hopefully, it's gonna be a bit more of a straightforward. But yes, please delete Skaven. Skaven don't exist. What are we talking about? What are these creatures you speak of? They don't exist in this world of Warhammer, at least according to the realms of men. I think someone has had some bad experiences with the Skaven. At least they got nerfed, though. Alright, Void Lulls is ready to go, so just waiting on Lunacy, and then we'll be getting into our second game. Let's see. So if this does go to a game 3, it is going to be Gorgazan is the last map, which I think is a rather large one at that. It's one of those maps from the Badlands, if I remember correctly. Menace below. PTSD. On Turin's Discord. For what? I mean, I know there's been some unsavory stuff there, but I haven't heard of anything recently. Alright, Lunacy has readied up, so we'll be getting into our final game, because Void Lulls was ready to go, so as soon as he's ready, we'll load on in, and game 2 will be underway momentarily after we wait for Void Lulls to load into the game. Ooh. Ooh, I have some fun news after this. But, alright, so we're loading on in now. There we go. Yeah, well, we'll just let that cool off then and just kind of avoid all of that drama if possible. We got another game to hopefully enjoy in a little quicker fashion than our last one. We'll see what that's going to look like when we see these two armies load on in. So we'll switch over the scene in a second. There we go. So it looks like a slight favor in terms of Skaven, in terms of balance of power. Now that doesn't really mean a whole lot. But let's hopefully it's going to look like very straightforward armies and not going to be just a bunch of like gutter runners and skirmish cav on the other side. I think Voidlos just didn't want to play a greenskin mirror because he banned greenskins and lizardmen. Lizardmen makes sense, but then I usually will see VC as the second ban for greenskins. But I mean, depending on who you ask, though, like, Vicious Satsuma, for example, who plays a lot of greenskins, I think he feels a lot more confident into VC, but it still probably is one of greenskin's lesser favored matchups. And the clock ticks down farther and farther. Hopefully, Voidlos' computer is going to be able to kick it into high gear and load on into this game before we have to reload it a second time. Knock on wood. Well, yeah, definitely not Dav. Dav would never touch that filthy undead. Yeah, for greenskins, an even matchup is a good matchup if you're playing against them. Come on, Voidlos, you get 2 minutes to load on in before we have to try again. Oh, there we go. You made it. We made it into the game. Now we can get underway. So, for the Skaven being led by Voidlos, we do have a Packmaster. I'm going to be on Brood Horror. Going to be bringing the Scrying Stone and the Shock Collar by the looks of things. So that gives 24 melee attack, plus 16 leadership and immune to psychology for a Clan Molder monster. We also do have a Scrying Stone, which is that nice 22% damage resist and leadership. Very cheap ability, too, to have that nice little ward save to be used. And it's fairly repeatable over the course of a fight. For the Gracier, we do have a Vermintide. We have the Dreaded 13th, Unholy Clamor. And then we have Arcane Conduit, of course, and the Bound Scorch. This is not going to be the one that costs Winds of Magic, but it does have I think it's like a 50% overcast being the Bound one. So yeah, it is 50% overcast chance. Or a miscast chance, not overcast. And so for the army, it is going to be some Poison Wind Globadiers, a couple units of those, but from foregoing any of the super long range, as we do have just some Clan Rat Spears mixed in with some Skaven Slave Slingers. We have a couple of Rat Ogres, one of which is the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep. They do have Berserk being the ROR, and we have a Hell Pit Abomination with some nice mobility, with some Wolf Rats with Poison, 3 units of those. And then just more Skaven Slaves for that front line. So fairly straightforward, and definitely not expecting to be engaging at any long range. Going to be coming straight forward for the Greenskin army. And the Greenskins do have some Forest Goblin Spider Riders with some Goblin Wolf Rider archers in that skirmish. So there is going to be a nice little 6 of them in total, taking the max amount. While the rest of the Greenskins is going to be sitting off into the woodlands here, trying to avoid potentially any of like the warp lightning cannons. Hopefully they don't stay in that forest for too long. We have a couple of savage orc biggins in that front line. We have the 8 peak loonies. We have Grom the Paunch, bring in Language of the Boys, the Lucky Banner, as well as that last one, which I'm forgetting what it is. The Great Un is here, which gives the leadership, base weapon damage, and melee attack buff. A couple of stone trolls to boot as well. And we do have some ranged units, though. We have a couple, the Hammer of Gork with the Goblin Rocklobber. And then for the rest of the infantry, I think there's just a few more units left. Just a trio of goblins for the rest of it, with a Giant Rare Troll Hag, bring in Aspect of the Dread Knight, Spirit Leech, and Mither. I mean, Mertonia can be decent into greenskins, but it also can go the other way around, because like Savage Orcs is just very hard for the Bretonnians to really deal with, because they quickly run out of infantry against them, and it's a little harder to bring down than the rest. Yeah, we definitely, yeah, it's one wrong move. In Talcor, you have some experience in that, that's for sure. So both sides ready to go. So Lunacy is ready, just waiting on, I think, Voidlaws to ready up, but he's been ready for quite some time. And I think with this army, he's going to have to be a little mindful of those two rock lobbers here. So we have two of those going to be pulling everything forward. And I think the plan here is to kind of pull those greenskins forward and then kind of sweep down with the rest of the greenskins. Well, I think for the most part, these guys were just trying to stay out of range of any of the, like, the expensive stuff is hiding in the trees to stay out from like the warp lightning cannons, which can be brought here, considering, I mean, against like the goblin rock lobbers, being able to snipe them out, and I mean just the fast mobility as well though. But they're just gonna be getting a little spirit leech off onto the poison wing globadier. Not many other good targets to be targeting. I mean, you could potentially go for the Grace here, but it has so much HP it's really not worth it. So really the poison wing globadiers is probably the best one, and it has done a fair amount of damage to these guys. They are fairly cheap units, but those goblin rock lobbers landing in, doing a lot of damage so far. And yeah, at this point, yeah, Green or Skaven gonna just have to advance. But we have a little engagement over in the forest over here, as the Wolf Rats were able to catch these Forest Goblin Spider Riders, and the Goblin Wolf Rider, especially the Goblin Wolf Rider archers, will lose very convincingly to those Wolf Rats, especially the Poison variant. And the Forest Goblin Spider Riders really aren't doing any better in that. So there's going to be a couple of them off the picture, but those Wolf Rats do route very, very quickly, especially with Grom being engaged there. So they're going to be routing now. They should be back. They have very high speed, so they should be able to outpace anything that the greenskins can really use to chase after it. I do hear a dreaded 13th, or that might actually, that was actually just the Clamor. So that was the Unholy Clamor giving that leadership and vigor. I'm not really going to be using any of that dreaded 13th. Going to be using a little Clan Rat summon though in the back line. Going to be going for these Hammer Gork and the Goblin Rock Lobbers. So they really have quickly collapsed upon the artillery, and now the greenskins do kind of spring their trap as they just flood out of that forest. Be getting a nice little rear charge onto these Game Slaves should pretty much instantly break them, and there is that dreaded 13th right on top of these Savage Orc Biggins, and it's going to just nuke them. Going to be dropping right on top or behind these Stone Trolls, so they'll be able to pin these guys in, kind of cutting off their avenue of escape. But they are going to be able to just continue right forward onto these Poison Wing Globadiers. We do have some more action off in the distance with those Wolf Rats, but this is going to be where this battle is won or lost, as the Packmaster going to be trying to engage with Grom the Punch, and as well as the Hellpit Abomination is going to be a very hard one to bring down, but all of these Stone Trolls should be able to do a decent job of that. However, the balance power is in the Skaven's favor so far. That dreaded 13th, I'm definitely inflating that just a bit with that Storm Vermin summon, and really that damage did a lot of damage to those Savage Orcs, and I would kind of look a little bit. Looks like the Wolf Rats have won out on that skirmish in the rear there, but this is kind of where it's just everything. We have that Rival High Talisman, so I did miss that Assassin earlier, so Rival High Talisman is being popped on the greenskins, reducing that melee attack by -40, which is very considerable, especially in this very decisive engagement here. But the wad does go off as well, giving that immune psychology, especially with that Hellpit Abomination engaged in here. Of course, that is going to also free up Grom the Paunch to not necessarily stay engaged in melee for the duration of that wall. He doesn't need to give that immune psychology because he is taking a lot of damage being engaged with that hell pit, just really stuck in right now. He does have the support of all of his trolls, who are doing rather well, and they have been able to break off all of the Skaven slave support. And I think that Grayseer would like to get one of the his clan rat summons in to just mix things up here, allow that hell pit to trade just a little bit better into all the units, because right now, but we do have the wolf rats charging into the rear, going to be giving that poison in, though they're not necessarily going to last all too long in this melee fight with their pretty abysmal leadership. But giving that poison forever briefly onto Grom is going to allow that hell pit just to dish out the damage, and he's going to be landing another hit there, doing a lot of damage as balance power is still in that Skaven's favor, though they have lost some of their mobility. The wolf rats are not the wolf rats, the rat ogres are going to be taken out of the picture, but there is still a very healthy unit of poison wing globadiers, and these goblins, they're not going to be able to break through that armor, though that Fanatics is going to be able to tear through them, doing a nice bit of their own. But just that continually poison wind, hitting these night goblins, not going to really be doing much to the stone trolls, but the stone trolls emerging from that blob very, very healthy, and are now going to be getting a nice surround off on the Grayseer, and they definitely need to pull forward, which it looks like they are trying to do. They're trying to get that complete surround off and make sure that that Grayseer has no avenue of escape, because with all of their mass, there's no way that Grayseer is going to be able to make it out of that engagement, and that hell pit needs to come in to the rescue of that Grayseer, because this is going to be how the greenskins are going to be able to claw their way back, is if they're able to take. But Lunacy, seeing that balance dipping a little too far against him, is going to be withdrawing from that fight. They had the Skaven with that rush. They didn't even have to use that Dreaded 13th against the artillery. They just closed that distance so quickly, and even though the stone trolls were very healthy, Grom the Paunch was getting routed off, and then just the quick mobility that was left. All of these wolf rats did very well, 600 on these guys, and then the Hell Pit Abomination was going to be constantly healing throughout that. These poison winds did a nice bit of damage. Yeah, Grom routed. I kind of missed that one there. Kind of focused more on what the Grayseer was doing. But yeah, losing Grom there. You still had some leadership with the Giant Troll Hag, and the Stone Trolls could have easily surrounded that Grayseer at that point. So I don't think it was necessarily completely lost, even if it was definitely in the Skaven's favor. But well played to both sides. A much more exciting last game than the last one, but that does mean that Voidlaws does take that, so we'll update the scorecard just to reflect that. He does take the series 2-0, so we did play. I think he only dropped one game throughout the day today, but both sides already withdrawn, but that is going to be our series for the day. Voidlaws does take that number 1 slot. And Roberduck, welcome, but you did miss all the action, as that was our last game of the day. Voidlaws wins 2-0 against Lunacy, so we'll kind of show the final semi-bracket. So Voidlaws advances to the finals. He did beat Mukip and Lunacy both 2-0. His first game was against Midlington, who he did win, but it was 2-1, so that was his only game dropped of the day. For the rest of the bracket, we had Platypus, we had Dr. Jellyfish, and AC Moore. All three of those went out in that first round. Otherwise, what you see is that semifinals and finals in the bracket. But yeah, that's going to be all I have for you today. Fortunately, that Enticity wasn't able to stream that, but always fun being able to stream another tournament. Definitely haven't. It's been a while since I've streamed a traditional bracket tournament in a while. It's been, yeah, ever since WWC started, I haven't really had any other tournaments casted, just kind of just some clan wars mixed into it, but it's been very WWC heavy, which is what we're going to be hitting in that tomorrow here. It's going to be another WWC tournament game, which is going to be live casted, Evenstar versus Zablaski. And yes, thank you very much, Rubber Duck. We have hit that 1,000 mark, and then we are going to be pushing on forward for that, but that does mean we get a little bit of money for that. We are going to be trying to do a celebration stream as well. I don't know if that's going to be this week. I wanted to do one soon, as soon as I hit 1,000, but just how the scheduling's been, I don't think I'm going to have the time to have that King of the Hill 1,000 celebration point anytime in the next week, maybe 2 weeks we'll be able to do it. We'll see if we can get to that point or find the time to do that. But we have another stream tomorrow, and then I have a game I'm going to be posting on Wednesday as well that I was requested to cast, so we'll be getting that out then. Thursday I'm going to be busy, and Friday as well, so we'll see if when we're able to find some time. So but it's going to be exciting stuff moving forward. All right, but yeah, I think that's going to be about it, though. Nice being able to get this casted, even with Enticity being busy, but good on him though. Getting some interviews. Hopefully that went very well for him. I'm getting him into that good cushy job I'm hoping for. Hopefully it doesn't mean we'll be missing him out in the Warhammer community, but yeah, good on him though for that. And yeah, I think that's going to be all I have for today. I don't think there's going to be anything else. I think we pretty much covered all of the upcoming stuff, all of the news of the day. So unless anyone else has any closing comments, we're going to be closing things out here as well. And again, thank you all for joining today. More of a, I guess it's kind of an impromptu stream where we kind of dumped on us in the last couple of days. Wasn't necessarily planned ahead of time, but it went well throughout. Got to test out the UI. I think that went fairly well. It's kind of the cleanup on that's a little funky, but otherwise, yeah, that's going to be all I have for today. I do hope you enjoyed the cast, and as always, have a good